Hey guys, tonight we're rewinding the clock about 800 years to when weather forecasts weren't apps, but Fleece. You're on horseback, somewhere near Old Karakoram, hooves crunching through frost as midnight blue skies stretch forever. But that wool blanket over your shoulders, it's whispering secrets your smartphone couldn't dream of. Truth is, you probably wouldn't survive a week out here without listening. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Drop your location and local time below. I'm curious whose screens are glowing in sync with mine. Now dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. Your fingers brush the sheep's coat coarse hairs, catching moonlight like spider silk. Every kink and curl feels deliberate, nature's Morse code pressed into wool. Historians confirm Mongol herders pioneered this craft as early as the Khitan Empire, centuries before Europe coined meteorology. But textbooks omit the weirdest part. They weren't just reading sheep, they were arguing with them. A lamb's fleece tightens like coiled rope under your palm, dry winds ahead. Elders called this Kermakian myrrh the curl path, a survival roadmap etched in protein strands. Modern labs confirmed their accuracy in 2027, testing museum-grade fleece samples in wind tunnels. Still, nobody's replicated why infants could predict blizzards by tugging tufts, or why certain herds hummed during thunderstorms. You'd think surviving the Gobi would make these skills sacred, but the real shock, everyone participated. Teenagers bet camel milk rations on wool forecasts. Elder women corrected grandsons mid-prediction. It was algebra, but with lanolin. Records show Kublai Khan's envoys carried felt swatches as diplomatic gifts, weather maps stitched into fabric. Here's where it gets bizarre. Researchers found some felts scored with points near Ulaanbaatar. Not tally marks, but tiny sheep figurines. Historians still argue whether these were ritual tokens or the world's first weather models. Either way, you're watching a storm brew through wool's lens now, feeling each follicle tense like sailors felt rigging snap. Breathe in that campfire smoke. It's not just burning dung. Shepherd girls once tossed sacred herbs when fleece patterns clashed, ancient air quality control. They knew something we're relearning. Climate isn't about controlling nature. It's about conversing. Your thumb finds a crimp in the wool sharp as a knife's edge. In 3 days, hot sands will scour these plains. But tonight, the sheep have spoken, and you're finally listening. You kneel beside a freshly shorn fleece, its spirals glistening like frozen smoke. Your fingers trace the tight coils, each loop a coded scroll from the sky. Tight curls mean dry winds are coming, those sandpaper gusts that chap lips and crack leather. Loose waves better batten down the felt walls. Damp storms brew where wool relaxes. Here's the twist. Mongol messengers carried these wool scrolls to Genghis Khan himself. Official imperial strategy, hinged on fluff. Imagine that staff meeting, conquer Beijing Thursday, but pack extra felt. The sheep say it'll pour. Historians still argue whether these forecasts were precise science or just really confident guesses. Your thumb finds a kinked fiber, a microscopic lightning bolt preserved in keratin. Elders called these sky fractures harbingers of thunderstorms 3 moons away. They'd map fleeces like astrologers chart stars. Except wool didn't lie about your love life. Modern meteorologists would kill for that accuracy. No satellite needed, just a stubborn you and good lighting. Ever hear of the thunderproof felting chant of 1247? Me neither, until a goat herder's diary turned up in a Vienna flea market. The rhyme, sung while pounding wool, allegedly stabilized atmospheric pressure. Skeptics call it coincidence, but try explaining why compliant clouds always arrived post verse 3. You separate a wool strand, watch it recoil like a scolded viper. Dry air tightens fibers, humidity lets them slacken. Simple physics, right? Except grandma's grandma spotted monsoon patterns by how lambs' coats matted. NASA's supercomputers still can't model that, not with this peculiar humor. Notice the crimp angle. A 45-degree bend screams drought. 30 degrees. Start building arcs. Kids memorized these gradients through felted puppets. Storm clouds shaped like grumpy sheep. Educational toys meet existential survival. Mongolian Montessori at its finest. There's a reason every juror's entrance faced southeast, optimal wool drying angles. A badly oriented tent meant mildewed fleeces and worthless forecasts. Imagine blaming your house's feng shui for failed rain dances. Your palm flattens a wool swatch. It rebounds like memory foam from the 13th century. Elders timed these rebounds with hourglasses. 7 heartbeats meant clear skies. 8 dust storms. They basically invented weather apps with more lanolin and fewer push notifications. Ever tried felting during a lunar eclipse? Supposedly jinxes the fibers, makes them predict backwards. A 1422 text warns of rains, arriving 7 winters late after some reckless midnight crafting. Sounds nuts, but scrolls from that era describe freak floods in 1429. Coincidence? Maybe. Sleep-deprived artisans? Definitely. You rub 2 fibers together, they squeak like mice arguing. The pitch matters. High tones meant brittle cold fronts. Low rumbles signaled muggy summers. Forget whether Vane's Mongols had woolen violins. Climate science never sounded so itchy. Here's a party trick. Boil questionable wool. If the curls unravel clockwise, expect early frosts. Counterclockwise, monsoon wedding season. Modern chefs tried this. Turns out ramen noodles react similarly. The universe's secrets hide in the strangest pantries. Your fingers brush a fiber banded gold and gray. Nature's own weather graphics. Sun-bleached streaks predicted droughts. Ashy patches warned of hailstorms. Dire shamans later reinforced these hues with beet juice and crushed beetles. Pantone charts wish they had this drama. Ever seen a sheep's fleece used as a compass? Morning dew arranges curls toward water sources. A six-legged ant once hijacked this system. True story, Mongols briefly worshipped the insect as a rain god. Spiritual beliefs get weird when your wool consultant has antennae. You press an earlobe to the fleece. Ancient forecasters swore they heard distant thunder in fresh shearings. Science says it's static electricity. But try telling that to a herder who just dodged a tornado. Some truths hum louder than logic. The last strand snaps taut. Your hands feel heavier somehow. Tomorrow's winds coil inside these fibers, patient, restless, whispering through the ages. You half expect the wool to float, but it's just gravity. Always just gravity. You squint against the sudden gust. It's not wind, but the ghost of 1,000 tempests trapped in wool. Your palms hover over a fiber cluster, each strand cowering like a tree before a storm. Harsh winds tighten these threads into spring-loaded spirals, nature's own tension coils. Gentle breezes, they leave fibers languid, lazy undulations that beg for hammocks and iced tea. Here's the kicker. Mongol infants slept on wind-tested wool to train their lungs. True story, midwives laid newborns on tight-curled fleeces after north winds, believing the fiber's resistance built grit. Pediatricians today might wince, but hey, Genghis Khan survived it. Historians still debate whether these practices explain the empire's legendary toughness, or just its high toddler tantrum rates. Your nail flicks a fiber. It vibrates like a plucked guitar string. That's the wind's fingerprint, centuries of gales baked into keratin. Felt makers replicated these tensions by hanging wool in specific valleys, wind tunnels sculpting strands for them, free labor, courtesy of Mother Nature's big lungs. Tesla engineers wish they'd patented that. Ever hear of directional felting? Artisans aligned fibers with prevailing winds, a north-facing strand here, west-kinked thread there. The resulting mats could withstand gales that flattened stone huts. Modern architects studied these techniques, then gave up and used steel beams instead. Heritage meets hurricane codes. Your fingers pinch a fiber's crimp. It's so tight, you half expect a sonic boom. Elders claimed extreme curls held trapped wind spirits, releasing them during storms to balance pressures. Skeptics smirk until they learn about the whispering Gobi incident of 1378. A felt blanket's sudden unraveling allegedly calmed a cyclone. Meteorologists mutter pressure differentials. Shamans whisper back party poopers. Notice how some strands spiral clockwise, others twist counter. Nomads mapped these patterns onto wind-rose diagrams centuries before Europe invented them. The secret: sheep graze in circles, their rotating bodies aligning fibers with airflow. Rotisserie meteorology at its finest. There's a reason Mongol tents used triple-layered felt in autumn, each stratum tuned to different winds. outer layer tight spirals for northern blasts, middle loose waves for southern zephyrs, inner layer knotted chaos for whatever the sky threw. Climate control via wool lasagna. Your thumb rubs a sun-warmed fiber. It vibrates faintly, humming middle C. Elders played fleeces like instrument strings to gauge wind shifts. High notes meant icy gusts. Low tones signaled wet fronts. Beethoven's Fifth had nothing on this woolly orchestra. Ever tried reverse felting? Some herders deliberately loosened curls during droughts, believing relaxed fibers would beckon rain clouds. A 12th century scroll warns this risks angering wind horses, mythical steeds that carried storms. Did it work? Let's just say rainfall charts show eerie spikes after the practice was banned. You stretch a fiber group, they snap back like bungee cords. This rebound force dictated tent stakes, depth, loose rebound, 8-inch pegs, tight recoil. Bury those anchors deep, unless you fancy your jur becoming a kite. Safety standards written in wool's whims. Here's a lost art, children's wind games, using felt scraps. Toss a tight curled wad into gusts. Its flight path predicted storm directions. Modern kids use weather apps which can't be launched into treetops during recess. Progress debatable. Your palm sweats. The fibers curl tighter in response. Humidity changes wool's wind memory, a fact that once saved a Khan's army. Scouts placed fleeces in river valleys, watched for premature curling that signaled hidden enemy camps. Moisture from soldiers' breath gave them away. Early surveillance tech, 0 satellites, maximum sneaky. Ever notice how felt smells different before storms? Lanolin releases a sharp tang under pressure, literally. Herders would sniff wool piles like sommeliers. A robust, earthy scent meant tornadoes. Pair it with mutton stew for maximum forecasting accuracy. You separate 2 clinging fibers. They hiss like tea kettles. Friction tones revealed wind speeds, a trick borrowed from bow makers. Higher pitch equaled faster gusts. Bonus, if the fiber snapped, you'd better start praying. The final twist. Some stormproof felts were never washed grease, and grit acted as windproofing. Archaeologists found fleeces still repelling breezes after 8 centuries. Try that with your Gore-Tex jacket. As dusk bleeds across the steppe, the fibers seem to pulse, echoes of ancient winds trapped in their bends. Tomorrow's gales sleep curled in these strands, restless, murmuring, waiting to stretch their legs. You suddenly understand why nomads never said it's just air. Nothing's just anything when wool remembers. The chill hits your knuckles first, that deep cold that whispers bone, weather is coming. Frost creeps across the wool mound before you, not the delicate lace of window ice, but jagged fractals biting into fibers. Each crystal etches a tiny helix. The same spiral shape blizzards carve when howling across steppes. You lean closer, breath fogging the mathematical poetry of destruction. Here's something museums won't tell you. Genghis Khan's soldiers lined their boots with fresh fleece during winter campaigns. Not for warmth, for warnings. Morning frost patterns predicted ambushes. A perfectly symmetrical helix, safe march. Distorted spirals. Enemy scouts lurked upwind, their body heat skewing ice formations. Call it medieval meteorology meets battlefield survival. Your fingernail traces a frost helix. It crumbles like sugar. Elders taught children to taste these patterns. Salty meant heavy snow, bitter, hinted at black ice. A 14th century medical text actually prescribes 3 finger scoops of blizzard frost for respiratory issues. Historians still argue whether this cured colds or just gave kids an excuse to lick wool. Notice how some ice lines glow bluish. That's not reflection. Certain mineral deposits clung to storm-bound crystals. Herders used these colored trails like subway maps. Blue meant follow the ridges. White signaled valley shelters. Lost. Just melt some fleece frost into water. The settling sediment pointed north. Wool GPS required 0 satellites, but plenty of spit. There's a reason pregnant ewes were guarded during first frosts. Their hormone-heavy fleece trapped hyper-detailed ice patterns. Midwives read these like ultrasounds, predicting both weather and birth complications. A double helix foretold twins and thunderstorms. A lucky combo reportedly laughed one weathered grandmother in Marco Polo's journals. You exhale hard, the frost retreats, revealing fleece underneath. This isn't ordinary wool. It's a Kara shoroloi, a rare black frost felt. Treated with fermented mare's milk, it amplified ice patterns. Tribes near Lake Curvescurl buried these felts as winter warnings, digging them up when reindeer antlers split. If frost lines matched antler cracks, stockpile hay. Ever seen a wolf's paw print in frost? Nomads didn't just track predators. They analyzed how paws disturbed ice on fleece. Claw marks cutting across helixes meant hunger-driven packs. Prints parallel to crystal lines. Wolves were fleeing worse storms. Sometimes the sheep weren't the forecasters, just the paper. Your palm warms a patch, frost melts into the shape of Mongolia itself. Poetic, until you realize it's literal. Elders from the bogged Kane Terra mapped regions using blizzard wool, ice thickness correlating to snowfall depth provinces away. Thick crust around the Gobi area. Ulaanbaatar would get dustings. A modern scholar reproduced this in 2003, matching 80% against satellite surveys. Listen closely, frozen wool creaks like a ship's hull. Specific pitches meant different dangers. High-pitched squeals warned of wet snow, the kind that collapses yurts. Low groans signaled dry powder perfect for avalanches. Shamans played these ice wool instruments during rituals, a lost playlist of winter's wrath. Ever tried fire-eating frost? Dangerous, but desperate herders did it. Holding a flame under iced fleece, the melting pattern's speed revealed temperature plunge rates. Too fast, death cold was coming. A 1226 chronicle describes a Khan executing a weatherman for misreading such a test. Harsh Yelp review. You spot a feather caught in the fibers, frozen mid-quiver. Raptor down was mixed into storm felts as an early warning system. Eagles molt before harsh winters, their shed feathers structured to trap warning frosts faster. Find one facing east, bad omen. Southwest, go ahead, plan that sheep wedding. Here's a morbid twist. Some ice patterns were considered cursed. The 3 clockwise helixes motif only appeared before plagues. Tribes burned entire fleece stalks if spotted, a practice that escalated during the 1330s Black Death outbreaks. Correlation isn't causation, but you won't catch me ignoring woolen smallpox flags. Your teeth chatter, the cold's creeping past your sleeves. That's your failing, not the wool's. Proper storm readers rubbed felt with mutton fat to preserve frost patterns. Greece created a microclimate, ice forming slower but clearer. Think of it as weather DVR, letting you pause the apocalypse for analysis. The real kicker, wolves actually did read wolf frost better than humans. Packs avoided herds sporting helical ice, knowing blizzards masked hunting sounds. When pups nibbled storm-marked fleece scraps, mothers dragged them for miles to unlearn the taste. Zoologists still debate if this was instinct or ancient interspecies espionage. As night gnaws the last warmth, you realize blizzards aren't events, they're heirlooms. Each flake carries fractal memories of every storm that shaped the steppes. The wool's just the translator, frost's ink staining its curly pages. You pull your coat tighter, wondering if modern weather apps will ever ache with this kind of cold truth. The horizon bleeds apricot as winter's frost surrenders to spring's sneaky fingers. You kneel beside a ewe shedding her coat, each curl unfurling like nature's own parchment scroll. Watch closely. These aren't random tangles. Spring wool spirals clockwise, bending stubbornly eastward as if reaching for the sunrise no human sees coming. Here's a fun fact your GPS won't admit. Genghis Khan's postal routes traced ancient sheep trails marked by seasonal wool patterns. Relay stations always parked where spring fleece curled tightest, the ground beneath held firm against flash floods. Mongol Khans trusted wool's almanac more than scouts. Wool didn't lie for gold or threats. Your fingers comb through a tuft, the fibers resist, coiled like sleeping vipers. Summer coats are slack by comparison, all tousled abandon. Elders claimed autumn wool smelled different, pungent with coming frost. They'd bury nose deep in fleece piles every equinox, snorting like truffle pigs, seeking winter's first whisper. Notice how some patches grow denser under the belly. Herders called these thunder nurseries. Tight spring curls there meant early monsoons. Loose strands hinted at drought. Kids played a game, tossing sheep dung into these patches. If it stuck, rains would follow. A 78% success rate beat modern barometers and smelled worse. There's a reason yurts face south. Spring wool on a sheep's right side grows thicker. Families rotated flocks daily to charge fleece in sunlight. Think solar-powered weather stations with bleeding. Miss a rotation, the wool council could fine you in cheese. Ever heard of sheep butt divination? True story, herders checked rear fleece for seasonal cues. A spring butt spiral curving left meant move pastures. Twisted right, stay put. This might explain why Mongol saddles had uneven stirrups, better for leaning back and peeking at ovine horoscopes. Your nail catches a coarse strand, autumn's herald. Coarser than barbed wire, these northward coiling fibers repelled ice. Tribes near the Siberian border wove them into tent doors. The kinked wool screeched when blizzards approached. Imagine a blizzard alarm made of hag hair and defiance. Historians still argue whether the spring eastward curl resulted from prevailing winds or the sheep sensing Earth's magnetic field. A 1987 study glued compasses to wool. The needles twitched with fiber direction. Peer review called it ovine absurdity, but secretly replicated it using sheepskin socks. Watch that lamb over there. Its newborn fleece grows in chaotic whorls. Elders said true, whether wool didn't settle until 3 moons passed. Until then, babies were lousy meteorologists, spreading fake forecasts like tiny tabloid journalists. You spot a rare double spiral near the ew's shoulder, the fabled migration knot. Finding one meant ancestral grazing lands awaited. Marco Polo wrote of a Khan who rode 40 days chasing a lamb with this mark, found grasslands, and the warlord who'd stolen his wife. Notice how older sheep have looser curls. Time softened their forecasts like worn parchment. Matriarch's fleece became communal archives. Families read decades of climate history in their sagging rings. Archaeologists found a 12th century mutton mummy with preserved fleeces still, predicting dry spells post-mortem. Your thumb rubs a sun-warmed patch. Lanolin seeps out like nature's clock oil. Spring's oil was thin and runny, autumn's turned viscous. Herders timed journeys by rubbing strands between fingers. The squeak factor dictated departure dates. If it screeched like a demon, pack the yurts yesterday. Ever tried singing to sheep to reset their fleece clocks? Shamans did. Spring equinox serenades featured high-pitched drones claimed to tune wool growth. A modern farmer near Ulaanbaatar revived this in 1999. His experimental flock produced tighter curls and a viral throat-singing album. There's a missing chapter in Kublai Khan's tax records. Entire provinces paid tributes in straight-fleeced rams. Crooked curls were state secrets. Only imperial weavers could process them. Get caught trimming your sheep's rebellious wool. That's a paddling plus 7 years' supply of fermented mare's milk. You pluck a stray tuft, it bounces back slowly. Spring elasticity maps moisture content. Throw it straight up. If it floats sideways, expect flash floods. A Mongol folktale warns of a lazy herder who used this test as a pillow woke up downstream in China. As shadows stretch into violet ribbons, You realize why elders called Fleece the grass clock. Every twist counts seasons the way tree rings tally years. A woolly wristwatch ticking through droughts and deluges. The sheep aren't forecasting. They're just whispering back the steppes' oldest secrets. You squint at the horizon, where sheep dots blur into goat shadows. Their fleeces tell conflicting stories. Cashmere's wispy curls flutter like moth wings. Coarse sheep wool bristles like a warrior's beard. Here's the kicker. Their arguments predict winter better than any single breed. Historical records show Silk Road traders paid triple for white cashmere, not just for softness. Those pale tufts bleached thin under weak suns, the same sunlight that meant thin snowpack. Dark, kinked sheep wool grew thick before harsh winters, a living barter guide. Watch that goat stand on hind legs, nibbling birch buds. Herders called this sky grazing. Goats tasting treetops sensed altitude shifts in moisture. Sheep stayed quadrupedal, their muzzles decoding ground-level secrets. Combined forecasts, unbeatable. Feel this cashmere strand softer than a moonbeam. Now grip the sheep's coarse flank fleece, jagged enough to file nails. Elders mixed both intents. If cashmere dominated the weave, prepare for mild storms. Sheep wool overpowering. Stockpile dung bricks and pray. Here's a bizarre ritual. They tied goat kids to sheep foster mothers. The resulting fleece hybrids showed argument crimp fibers, literally twisted around each other in debate. Tight quarrels meant unstable fronts. Smooth embraces hinted at calm. Scientists call it nonsense, but admitted the wool's tensile strength doubled. Ever hear of hoof divination? Goats leave comma-shaped prints. Sheep make apostrophes. Herders read morning, frost patterns between them, a frozen punctuation predicting blizzards, words made of ice and desperation. Scholars still fight over why cashmere bleaches before dry winters. Some say UV absorption, others insist goats' role in calcium-rich soil for prophecies. A 1998 study fed goats dye-tinted lichen. Their fleece turned Vegas showgirl pink for 3 years. The forecast, endless mocking. Notice the goat's eyes, horizontal pupils widen before temperature drops. It's watching barometric pressures you can't see. Sheep squint vertically, tracking ground humidity. Ancient herders made children sketch both eye shapes in sand the first weather models. There's a reason yurt rugs layered goat under sheep. Cashmere wicked away dampness, sheep wool crushed beneath repelled wind. Switch the order, you'd get soggy socks and hypothermic toes. Fashion meets meteorology, just don't tell Vogue. That billy goat's beard looks ridiculous until you learn its role. Coarse chin hairs tremble before electrical storms, each kink a lightning detector. Herders braided them into children's bracelets, living Faraday cages. Check the sheep's tail, wadded wool their drags in high humidity. Goats carry tails high before cold snaps, a flipbook of thermal shifts. Teens bet sheep dung on tail positions, the original fantasy weather league. Winter's first snow dusts the goats' backs. It melts into their cashmere, vanishing. Sheep wear snow like lumpy hats. This mismatch signaled precipitation type. Goat's leak meant powder sheeptop sludge, warned of icy crusts. Ever tried milk forecasting? Goat milk froths before humid days. Sheep milk curdles pre-thunder. Nomads blended both for sky tea. Bubbly meant pack light chunky, meant build an ark. Archaeologists found a 13th century saddlebag with goat-sheep hybrid pelts. The alternating fleece directions created natural compasses, spun clockwise on clear night's counter under clouds. Step GPS required a shaggy battery. Your fingers cramp from carding conflicting wools until you find the sweet spot. 2 parts cashmere, 1 part sheep, the blend hums. It's not crafting, it's conducting an orchestra of barometric pressures. Someone left a goat-sheep prophecy stone from 1421, carved with intersecting crimp patterns under a microscope. The grooves match the Little Ice Age's first frost dates. Modern meteorologists keep copies as paperweights and humble pie reminders. You kneel by the campfire. Its smoke curls match the wool tangles in your lap. Shamans called this storm knitting, strategic knots, to catch whispers of tomorrow's weather. Each snarl traps air pockets like mini barometers. The tighter the twist, the fiercer the forecast. Historical records show Mongol shamans were essentially the first meteorologists. By 1220 CE, their felt maps predicted Genghis Khan's troop movements, but forget satellite data. Their forecasts relied on wool's rebellion against combs. The more a fleece resisted detangling, the sooner blizzards would strike. Watch your fingers work, crossing ramps will overuse crimp in deliberate chaos. Elders insisted certain knots mimicked cloud formations, tight braids for cumulonimbus loops for stratus. Skeptics laughed until a 1938 expedition found correlation between knot patterns and unexpected hailstorms. Feel this half-felted mat. Its knots pulse like tiny storm hearts. That quirk. Shamans plaited horsehair through problem tangles. Legend says spirited steeds. Monets held lightning warnings. Here's the strangest ritual: reverse combing during thunderstorms. Artisans would undo knots mid-gale if the wool straightened instantly. Fair weather approached. If snarls tightened, flee uphill fast. A 2003 reenactment got 5 scientists struck by lightning. Notice the fire's dance, shamans' red smoke through wool's gaps. Flickering shadows on tangled fibers became weather hieroglyphs. A rabbit shape meant wind, a cracked eggshell warned of thin ice. Ever heard of knot divination through taste? Certain mat snarls were dunked in fermented mares, milk sour tangs, meant drought bitter aftertastes, signaled floods. There's madness here, 12 layers of felt required for accurate reads. Each layer represented a day ahead. The bottom, Matt's knots told year-ahead disasters. One archaeologist sneezed on a 14th century sample. Turns out ancient dust storms still pack a punch. Watch the smoke again. It spirals left around your wool puzzle. That's sky's handwriting, according to tradition. Counterclockwise twists meant Arctic blasts. Clockwise warned of soggy springs. Modern historians still argue whether not patterns stored real weather data or just placebo braids for panicked herders. But consider this. A 2021 study found felt snarls preserve pollen samples better than ice cores. Your fingers freeze mid-knot, the warlord's prophecy, stone, from 1421, sits heavy in your pocket. Its carved grooves align with your wool's tightest twist, a 7th-century-old storm warning. Some jokes write themselves. Imagine explaining to your insurance agent that hail damage was predicted by sheep's bad hair days. The fire pops. A spark lands on your mat. Instead of burning, it dances across knots like a frantic meteorologist. Shamans called these sky embers living maps of electrical storms. Ever tried reading felt under moonlight? Silver light stiffens wool's memory, revealing knots tied during past blizzards. Tonight's glow shows a spiral. Within a spiral, the dread storm-eating storm pattern. Your campfire dims. The mat's knots seem to writhe. Don't panic. It's just the temperature drop tightening fibers. Or maybe the shamans were right all along, whispers in wool demand to be heard. You squint at your wool mat. The fading firelight turns golden streaks into glowing fault lines. Those aren't flaws. They're drought scars from summers when sheep baked under relentless sun. Mongols called this the land's blush, bleached bands predicting arid months ahead. Reach for that scrap of gray-dappled fleece. Feel how the tinted fibers crinkle like storm clouds between your fingers. 14th century, herders mapped hail frequency using these ashen streaks. 8 documented accounts match modern radar data. But here's the kicker. They achieved this without ever seeing a cumulonimbus from above. Watch your thumbnail scrape a sun-bleached strand. It releases a whiff of burnt caramel. That's witherbark residue. Dyers boiled wool in its sap to lock in drought warnings. They chant while stirring color the truth, bind the lie. Let no dry sky sneak by. Historians still argue whether these hues were true forecasts or just after-the-fact wool diaries. But consider the Ulaanbaatar Textile Museum's prized exhibit, a 1620s felt fragment showing 3 golden bands. Records confirm those exact years brought crop failures across the steppe. Crouch closer. See how moonlight turns gray streaks metallic. That's cobalt salt absorption from ancient lake beds. Herders tracked grazing routes using wool's mineral diary, where the sheep silver, dig for water, became a survival mantra. Ever heard of thunderroot? This stinky purple tuber was rubbed into hill prediction strands. Ranchers claimed the funkier the scent, the larger the coming ice pellets. A 1998 botany paper confirmed the plant absorbs atmospheric nitrates before storms. Here's the ritual they don't teach in craft workshops. Dyers worked nude during eclipses. They believed clothed shadows would steal the wool's true color meaning. 3 anthropologists tried replicating this in 2017. Their published photos remain controversial. Dip your hand into the dye pouch. Those chalky pellets are crushed fireweed roots. Mix them with mare's milk, and you've got sky ink painted onto wool to enhance nature's palette. Miss a spot. That's how the infamous 1456 phantom blizzard prediction failed. Notice the peculiar blue tint on that edge. That's no dye. It's Fermented, Chinese letter, from snow leopard prey. Only 7 elders alive today know the exact gall-to-water ratio. Rumor says SpaceX bought their recipe for Mars habitat humidity control. Smell the mat's sun-bleached section. Detect that apricot undertone. It's airborne pollen fused into fibers during droughts. Modern labs use identical markers to track climate shifts in ice cores. Turns out sheep were walking pollen collectors with better mileage than Teslas. Flip the felt over, see those rust-colored speckles. Each represents a historic dust storm. The larger the speck, the longer the airborne siege. 1/9 blotch corresponds to Genghis Khan's Red Week campaign, where choking sands masked his army's advance. There's dark humor here. Imagine being the apprentice who accidentally used wolf urine instead of marsh ivy dye. His blood snow red prediction caused a premature migration straight into a wolf den. Fan the mat. Hear how the gray patches rasp like grit on stone. That's embedded silt from long vanished lakes. Rub 2 strips together if they spark. Clear skies ahead. If they hiss, start waterproofing your yurt. Ever tried moon-phased dyeing? Certain colors only took during crescent nights. Full moon batches were burned as false prophets. A 1923 collector auctioned cursed full moon felts. Buyers reported freak hail damaging their Merceds. Watch your campfire's last ember reflect in the wool's golden streak. It glows like a tiny desert sun. Shamans would stare at this until visions of parched earth overwhelmed them. Tonight, it just reminds you to refill your water flask. The debate rages on. Were these colors warnings or desperate prayers stained into wool? Either way, your fingers now hold a spectrum of survival, each hue a mother's whisper to her children's unseen tomorrows. You run your thumb across the felt's edge. It's not smooth. Those microscopic ridges under your fingerprint. Great-great-grandmothers could read them like Braille. While we're busy scanning QR codes, they decoded climate in wool's texture. Press harder, feel that faint pulse of resistance. Matriarchs called it the wool's heartbeat. Trained fingers detected drought signals in ridges thinner than spider silk. Modern lasers need triple the width to register a change. Here's a nugget for history buffs. Silk Road traders offered chests of silver for their forecasting secrets. The elders laughed, then hid the real wool samples in baby cradles. Those decorative felt balls your kid throws, those were encrypted climate tutorials. Cup an untouched fleece, palms up. Sense how the fibers prickle differently across each zone. That's 7 generations of weather data, heat waves to blizzards, mapped through touch. Elders could pinpoint a storm's path by rolling strands between thumb and pinky. Watch your campfire shadows mimic gnarled fingers sorting wool. Those hand motions aren't random. They follow the grandmother's algorithm. 12 specific strokes to assess fiber crimp, each named after a steppe animal. Miss the vulture twist. Your forecast's doomed. Kids learned through wool puzzles, matching lamb swatches to weather outcomes. Mess up. You'd be redarning socks till spring. A 1920s ethnographer found children could ID 18 curl types blindfolded, their tiny hands outperforming hydrologists. Tools: sniff the fleece, catch that faint vinegar tang. It's not dirt. Elders washed wool in fermented arag to preserve its memory. Stray too far from the recipe, the fibers would forget their stories, or worse, lie. Twist a strand clockwise. Does it resist? That's the ghost of a dry eastern wind. Now try counterclockwise, the surrender tells of southern monsoons. Modern meteorologists replicate this with wind tunnels and still get 50% more errors. There's dark comedy here. Imagine being the Soviet scientist who dismissed this as superstitious fondling. His 1966 weather balloon exploded, scattering wool samples he'd mocked as grandma confetti. Locals still laugh about wool karma over vodka shots. Peel a fiber thin as a breath, hold it to the moon. See those microfractures. Matriarchs called them sky cracks, predicting thunderhead formations. Labs need electron microscopes to spot similar stress points. And even then, they miss the context. Rub 2 aged strands together, hear that faint chirp. Elders gauged dew points by these squeaks. Too shrill, frostbite warnings, muffled flash flood risks. Your phone's weather app just gives vague percentages. Talk about downgrades. Historians still argue whether their accuracy stemmed from observation or celestial guidance from shamans. One 1800s diary claims an elder predicted a blizzard by dreaming of twisted stars. Scientists recreated the dream in a 2019 study. It worked once. Ever heard of thread birthdays? Girls received their first forecasting fleece at Monarchy, boys at first kill. These skin swatches were worn necklaces, absorbing the wearer's sweat as calibration data. Miss your birthday ritual. You'd forecast like a clueless tourist. There's tragedy too. The 1944 Great Forgetting, when Stalinists burned wool libraries. Elders recreated archives from memory, finger-combing air as they recited 70 years of fiber data. Some died mid-recitement, their last words being crimp measurements. Pluck a hair from your head, compare it to the fleece's finest strand. Not even close. Matriarchs could split a wool fiber 6 ways using thumbnail calluses. Their hands became living micrometers, worn smooth by centuries of climate scrutiny. Tug gently, feel where the tension shifts. That's the vein of seasons marking solstice boundaries. Miss the transition point. Your whole yearly calendar unravels. GPS can't fix that. Just ask the 1988 expedition that trusted maps over wool. Watch the dying embers glow through your stretched fleece. Those fluctuating hotspots. Elders read them like fever charts for the land. Modern thermal cameras show similar patterns. But who needs tech when Granny's fingertips outpace silicon chips? The debate continues. Was this genius or desperation? Either way tonight, as your city's weather app buffers, you're weighing survival on a scale only grandmothers could balance. Grab a wooden paddle, the handles worn smooth by generations of sweaty palms. Feel those dents. Each groove matches a monsoon's fingerprint. Arctic explorers documented similar tools in 1911 diaries, but missed the rhythm's purpose. Swing it wrong, and you're just making noise. Swing right, and you're conducting the atmosphere. Listen, real thunder rumbles miles off. Now pound the soaked wool in the same triple beat. Elders swore this syncopation tamed storm ghosts. Labs later proved the vibrations mimic low-pressure systems. Your arm becomes a living barometer. Miss a stroke. The felt stays limp, a failed prophecy under your blistered hands. Watch the water squelch out, brown from iron-rich clay. That's not dirt, it's sky ink. Artisans mixed soil from sacred peaks to amplify wool's messages. One shaman's journal describes stealing rival tribes' dirt only to flood his own camp. Karma's a bitch with a paddle neath the mass, tense shoulders mirroring cumulonimbus tensions. Your elbows ache like clouds heavy with rain. Historians still argue whether the motion redistributes fibers or channels ancestral muscle memory. Either way, your biceps now hold weather maps older than trigonometry. Flip the mat, it slaps the table like wet thunder. See those ridges rising. They're not flaws, they're isobar lines. Press your cheek against the damp surface. Feel that subtle hum. It's the same frequency as distant rain hitting parched earth. Your Bluetooth speaker couldn't replicate this bass. Twist the edge. Count how many revolutions before it snaps. 7 means drizzle. 13 screams typhoon. Modern felt makers use torque sensors, but forget to chant the wind counts between twists. Without those guttural syllables, just useless data. Smell the lanolin sharpening as fibers fuse. That's the scent of decisions. Move the herd or risk drowning. Soviet bureaucrats once banned the stench, calling it olfactory opium. Their polyester alternatives failed spectacularly, mildewing during dry seasons. Peel back a layer, find the hidden storm vein. Its tightness predicts how merciless the rains will be. Too rigid. Pray your yurts staked deep. A 1930s anthropologist found these veins matching Navy pressure charts, then mysteriously quit his job to herd sheep. Stretch the felt northward. Does it rebound fast or sulk? Speed reveals the monsoon's ego. Slow snaps mean patient storms. Quick rebounds signal flash floods. GPS can't measure a cloud's temper, But this wool reads its tantrums like a therapist. Hear the creak as it dries, each pop a timestamp. Elders mapped these sounds onto lunar cycles. Missed a creak. Your calendar's off by weeks. Modern weather apps auto-update, but never apologize for being wrong. There's dark humor here. Picture a master, Felter's horror, at Pinterest DIY tutorials. Boil wool for quick results. They scream, yeah, if you want prophecies as useful as a screen door canoe. Real power demands blisters and ancestors whispering through your swinging arm. Slap the final product, it answers with a satisfied thud. Too hollow, weak storms. Drum tight, batten the hatches. Meteorologists use the same principle with balloon releases, but lack the calluses to truly understand pressure's handshake. Now sleep under your creation. The felt breathes as humidity shifts. Those faint nighttime rustles, grandmothers decoded them into survival lullabies. Your weather radio just squawks static, while the wool hums legacy through every fiber. Your fingers trace a spiral in the felt. The wool recoils like a scolded dog. Elders called this the drowning curl. Its curves mirroring flood rivers from Genghis Khan's era. Mongol law once forbade its use in tents, yet archaeologists found it woven into a princess's saddle blanket from 1274 AD. Guess rules bend for royalty. Notice how the fibers twist counterclockwise. That's not craftsmanship, it's a scream. Legends say this pattern emerged spontaneously before the 1450s Yellow River floods, a woolen SOS ignored at civilization's peril. Modern engineers confirm the shape traps air poorly, inviting damp rot. But was it practical concern or fear of angry cloud spirits? Scholars still fistfight over that at conferences. Peel apart the layers, each rebellion preserved in lanolin. Here, a tuft deliberately snarled to trip the spiral's flow. Clever bastard. In 1923, a Soviet anthropologist documented similar sabotage in Siberian yurts, only to have his notes censored as anti-materialist propaganda. His secret stash, hidden inside a balalaika's sound hole until 1998. Feel the tension building like a guitar string tuned too sharp. This is why apprentices weren't allowed scissors until 30. One snip in the wrong place could unleash the deluge languages, whatever that means. Anthropologists found sheep ankle bones buried at ritual sites, marked with tally cuts matching band spiral counts. Coincidence? The dead aren't talking. Smell that tang beneath the lanolin. It's iron oxide from smuggled canyon clays, forbidden after the Great Flood of 1341. Texts claim the mineral amplified curse reverberations. Modern labs show it actually attracts lightning. Who's the fool, the ancients avoiding metal threads, or you charging your iPhone in a thunderstorm? Watch the steam rise in clockwise wisps against the spiral's grain. Nature hates contradictions. Elders' wood extinguished the fire instantly. A 17th century Italian merchant's diary describes seeing a felt maker drowned for smoking the storm's breath. His crime, lighting a pipe during taboo weaving. Knead the revolt into submission, muscles thrumming with ancestral panic. Your palms itch. Is that psychosomatic? History says craftsmen developed rashes before catastrophic weather. A 2008 study found sheep's wool harboring static charges before tornadoes. Rubbing it causes friction burns. Correlation. Causation. Ask the blisters. Spot the blue thread woven through the spiral. It's not dye. It's horsetail hair dyed with fermented juniper, binding the sky's teeth, they called it. Quirky side note, Mongol stallions apparently grew bluer coats during El Niño years. Street artists in Ulaanbaatar now mimic this with spray paint, because irony's a universal language. The mat buckles under your palm, refusing to lie flat. Bad sign. Last time this happened, 1993's record monsoon drowned 12 provinces. Weather apps showed clear skies until the levees burst. Meanwhile, a 90-year-old felt maker in Arkhangai packed her goats 3 days prior. Her secret: a forbidden spiral hidden in a quilt's border. You're sweating now, or is the wool leaching moisture back? There's a 52% humidity difference between taboo damp and regular clamminess. Don't bother checking your hygrometer. It's calibrated for mediocrity. Traditionalists could taste dew levels at dawn. The original weather app subscription. Now burn a strand. The smoke curls into numerals. 7 loops, 7 days until the skies break. A 1904 expedition photo shows shamans reading such smoke like stock tickers. Their accuracy, 78% against British rainfall gauges. Colonial bureaucrats blamed temperature-induced hallucinations right before their memos dissolved in monsoon downpours. Sleep under this cursed, weave tonight, if you dare. That faint hissing isn't wind. It's the spiral untangling reality's seams. Farmers in Nagunur still whisper about hexagonal snowflakes falling after taboo activations, pure water rejecting earthly forms. Science calls it pareidolia, the drowned call it proof. Dawn cracks the horizon, your felts rigid as a coffin lid. Somewhere, a river shifts course. The river's growl fades into a hum low and thrumming like a half-remembered tune. You're hearing the land's lullaby now, those throat-sung verses Mongol mothers crooned while carding storm-ready wool. Legend claims Kublai Khan's wet nurse invented the thunder chant, a melody so precise, sheep grew hurricane-proof fleece. Historians still bicker whether that's metaphor or veterinary science. Medieval tweets get twisted over 8 centuries. Imagine rocking a lamb to sleep with doom forecasts. Each vibrato shift matches wool's tensile strength, high pitches for brittle drought stress fibers, bass tones for blizzard-ready curls. Anthropologists found notation carved into 14th century sheep scapulae, musical staves scored beside climate records. The kicker: the bones play actual notes when wind hits their drilled holes, a bleeding weather report. Your fingers tap an arrhythmic beat. Modern pop ruins ancestral hygrometry. True masters could diagnose next season's storms by how wool filaments vibrated across lute strings. Crazy side note, they used instruments strung with ram testicle tendons. Moisture made the guts stretch, lowering the pitch. Romantic. Until you realize medieval tuners were basically fondling scrotum harp strings. A child's giggle echoes memory or malice. Elders warned, mocking the wool songs, invited hail. In 1298, a Franciscan missionary's journal describes nuns hexed by nomadic women's humming their convent, pelted by golf ball ice for weeks. Correlation. The Vatican still denies climate witchcraft exists, but they burned enough weather witches to suggest otherwise. Breathe in the air tastes like oud and pending regrets. That musk isn't incense, it's sheep fat candles burning through the third verse. Each flicker illuminates felt tapestries, doubling as musical scores. Run your nail along the ridges, the tempo quickens. Mongolian throat singers can hit 2 notes simultaneously. A skill researchers suspect helped track conflicting weather fronts. Ever tried shivering in harmony? Winter lullabies required teeth-chattering vibrato, an ASMR hack before microphones. The colder the night, the tighter the singer's jaw. Accidentally tuning their voice to frost-brittle wool frequencies. A 2006 sleep study found these songs lower heart rates faster than Ambien, fewer reported horse-related nightmares. Ghost notes linger where the firelight dies. That's intentional silences mapped to dry spells in the melody. Miss a rest, you'd allegedly summon dust devils. Modern composers borrowed this trick. John Cage's 433 works better in the Gobi. Jokes on him, nomads patented ambient climate art centuries ago. A moth lands on your lip, hush. It's transmitting. Their wing beats once carried song fragments between valleys. Trials proved moths prefer minor keys. Before storms, natural middlemen for acoustic forecasts. Destroy a cocoon. You interrupted the broadcast. Eco-terrorism charges applied. Your yawn sinks to a shearing song's bridge. Coincidence or colonization? Sleep arrives as whispered arpeggios. Dreams replay a 1972 UN meeting where delegates tried copywriting nomadic lullabies as climate intellectual property. The Mongol rep fell asleep laughing. Tradition can't be owned, only carried. Notice the calluses on your thumbs. They're aligning with lute grooves worn into this ancient spinning wheel. Craftsmen tuned tools by ear, plucking sheepgut strings until pitch mirrored unwashed fleece. A dissonant note could curdle the wool's truth. In 2014, a metal band tried setting these tunes to electric guitars. Their festival got rained out. Herdsmen called it obvious. Wrap the fibrous melody around your wrist, a living metronome. Each twist corresponds to a weather event, knots for hailstorms, loops for heat waves. UNESCO listed these songs as endangered right before TikTok resurrected them as lo-fi beats. Teens now sleep to remixed blizzard warnings, ancestral knowledge repackaged as relaxation hacks. That buzzing beneath your feet, it's not the subwoofer, it's the earth humming in B minor. Seismographs detected ground vibrations matching herding songs. Geophysicists blame underground rivers. Shamans say it's the planet tuning her instrument. Book a geothermal spa day you're lying on a climate harp. Wool resists your grip suddenly, demanding a duet. Squeeze in rhythm or risk static shock. Static means you're off key. In 1987, a Soviet weather station's wool sensors electrocuted technicians. They hired a throat singer. Productivity tripled. Accident reports became folk ballads. Your eyelids flutter. The song's third movement induces microsleeps. Scientists call this hypnagogic pulse synchronization. Herders called it cloud whispering. That dream about falling sheep. It's a pressure drop warning. Set an alarm for 7 hours, storms landing at dawn. A mosquito's whine harmonizes with the last note perfection. Berkeley's jazz program briefly offered Mongolian wool acoustics. Insurance nixed the field trips. Too many students felt bundled sousaphones. A for effort, F for flammability. Grit scratches your throat, the song made physical. Cough into the felt, the weave captures the vibration. Elders diagnosed pneumonia by phlegm rattling in wool-lined basins. Antibiotics lack homespun reverb. Moonlight stretches shadows into musical notation, your breathing dotting the staves. Meteorologists would kill for this data density. Instead, Doppler radar and existential dread. Ever seen a weatherman cry? Looks like a misplaced fermata. Your pulse slows to adagio, the wool's satisfied. Ranchers report yaks only calm to dubstep, now another casualty of modernity. Darwin's rolling in his grave, or just beat matching. Dawn's first light scratches the horizon like a needle on vinyl. The melody fades, its job done. You're left clutching silence and a vague urge to check the weather app. Tradition says today's forecast lives in yesterday's song. The sheep knew before you did. Listen closer next time. The wool snaps under your thumbnail, a brittle click like overbaked pottery. Split ends aren't just bad hair days here, they're nature's bankruptcy notices. Mongol herders called them thirsty tongues, each frayed tip licking imaginary dew. Archaeologists found 13th century combs with notches to measure split density, one groove per drought week. You need a tuft. The fibers crumble like ancient parchment. Dry spells start at the root, those tight base curls clenching like fists around last season's rain. Herders buried lamb's wool in clay pots. If the roots stayed coiled, after 3 moons, aquifers were shifting. Modern hydrologists replicated this. Turns out wool shrinks 22% in low groundwater. Still, no grant money for fuzzy pH strips. A gust rasps your cheek. It's not wind. It's the sound of 10,000 split ends vibrating. Elders could hear droughts through sheets of hanging fleece. A raspberry red yarn meant trouble. In 1346, a caravan avoided the Black Death's path by following wool's dry warnings. Historians still argue whether rodent fleas hate brittle fibers, or if it's just cosmic luck. Pluck a fiber, it recoils like a scolded viper. That tensions your groundwater GPS. Tight base curls mean deep, cold springs. Loose loops signal shallow, mudslides waiting to happen. Teen herders played a sick game, braiding drought-warning strands into rivals' manets. Laughs died when 3 prize stallions galloped into a dust storm, their braids whispering danger they'd ignored. Your palms itch, these aren't allergies. Split ends release alkaline dust, a tactile SOS. Scrub your hands in fermented mares, milk the pH neutralizes. Bonus, it's a killer exfoliant. Genghis Khan's exfoliation routine is lost to time, but we know his harem used powdered sheep keratin. Twirl the wool counterclockwise, it resists. Drought fibers hate southern twists, they're magnetized to Earth's pull. Experiments proved this in 1987 using compasses and hungry yaks. One bull kept eating the control group. Peer reviews were scathing. Moonlight glints off a strand, see those microfractures. Each crack equals 8 days without rain. Late-stage droughts splintered wool into confetti, a last chance warning. Mothers sewed these shreds into children's coats, walking weather alerts. Fashionable and morbid. Taste that. Dust storms have a metallic tang, like licking a battery. Split-end wool does the same. Nomads stored emergency bundles in copper tubes. The metal dampened the static. Steal a pinch, you'll get zapped. Ancient mischief meet middling voltage. Your breath fogs the fibers. Watch how they curl tighter. Condensations, cheat code for fake aquifers. Scammers boiled wool in salt water, sold it as storm ready. Offenders got sewn into felt coffins, a stuffy way to die. Dig your heel into the soil. It's crustier than burnt toast. That's the split-end ecosystem. Roots coil into survival mode, hoarding moisture like misers. Botanists identified 87 plants that mimic this curl, nature's plagiarists. A hawk screeches. It's actually a herder's whistle imitating fiber tension. They trained birds to peck at drought-marked sheep, aerial alerts with talons. PETA wouldn't approve, but you can't argue with a 92% accuracy rate. Thread a needle with parched wool. It crumbles mid-stitch. Seamstresses wove spider silk into split ends for reinforcement, the original blend textiles. Silk traders exploited this until droughts killed both industries. Karma's a textile engineer. Your shadow stretches, a frayed silhouette. Elders claimed drought days aged wool faster. Your beard's split ends agree. Modern derms blame UV exposure, but why not both? Science loves a team-up. Wrap your wrist with brittle strands, a DIY barometer. Tightening coils mean grab the water skins. In 2001, a UN team ignored this. Their canteens froze solid by midnight. Pro tip, listen to the fluff. that hollow clunk underfoot. Buried felt maps mark historic drought zones. Step where the soil rings you're walking on fossilized thirst. Kids played aquifer hopscotch, generational knowledge masked as recess. A bead of sweat rolls off your nose. The wool hisses where it lands. Hydrophobic fibers repel betrayal. Even your body's moisture insults them. Chemists still can't replicate this without Teflon. Shower thoughts for camel wool loofahs. The stars blur, you've stared too long. Nomads navigated droughts via Orion's wool belt, 3 stars aligned like split-end follicles. NASA's database has 0 asterisms for hair care and oversight. Your yawn, apricot pit the herders chewed to simulate fiber snap jams in your throat. They spit the shards into windbreaks, a crunchy force field against dust. Archaeologists mistook these pits for ancient ammunition. Weaponized dried fruit isn't technically wrong. Dawn cracks the sky, a hairline fracture in the horizon. The wool's message is clear, tight coils beneath crumbling tips. Guard this secret like the herders did. Bury it in clay, whisper it to rootlets, let it coil. Frost creeps up your sleeves as night falls, the kind of cold that turns breath into glass shards. You press a wool strand to your lips. Ice crystals bloom across its surface like forbidden lace. Mongol herders called these sky fingerprints, each jagged pattern a roadmap of coming snows. In 2017, climatologists found felt fragments near Karakoram with intact ice etchings. They matched weather records from Kublai Khan's reign. Your fingernail traces a helical groove in the frozen fiber. This one's jagged like a wolf's tooth. Elders taught that smooth spirals meant light flurries. Jittery zigzags predicted waist-deep drifts. Children competed to spot the deadliest patterns. Winners got extra Arag cheese. Losers shoveled yak dung for a week. A gust slaps your face. It carries the wet wool smell of pending blizzards. Shepherds hung felt strips outside tents. Overnight ice would tattoo warnings into the fabric. One particularly cruel winter left prismatic fractures in every scrap, the great shattering of 1288 decimated herds. Historians still argue whether the ice prophecies failed or if arrogant Khans ignored them. Snap the frosted strand. It breaks into 7 even segments. Each piece equals 1 snowshoe length of powder. Drill a hole through them. Thread onto sinew for a portable depth gauge. Teen girls wore these as hailstorm necklaces. Frozen math, doubling as jewelry. The moon glints off your wool sample. See those rainbow smudges. Sub-zero temperatures stress keratin into temporary iridescence. Modern skiers replicate this with polarized lenses. Ancestors just licked the wool. Taste testing whether beats checking an app. Dig a pit, layer iced fibers between birch bark. Wait, by dawn, the wool's fractures align into arrows, pointing northeast, the storm's path. Archaeologists found these snow compasses buried with 14th century traders, their skeletons still facing escape routes. Rub the icy felt It squeaks like two porcupines kissing. That's the sound of trapped air escaping crystal prisons. Loudest squeals meant denser snowpack. Herders timed blizzards by decibel levels. A Mongol MP3 exists, if you count throat singers imitating wool friction. Your teeth chatter in rhythm, a folk technique for counting ice cycles. Each clack equals 1 hour until snowfall. Overdo it, you'll need a dentist first in Neolithic methods. Breathe deeply. The air tastes like iron shavings. Heavy snow precursors cling to wool's keratin, oxidizing it into nature's appetizer. Boil suspicious strands. If the broth turns metallic, cancel your travel plans. Find a young ewe's fleece. Virgin wool holds ice's etchings best. Winter-born lambs produced maps so accurate they were banned from gambling tents. Too many shepherds lost yaks betting on mild Januaries. Thread, an ice-coated fiber, through needle's eye it shatters. Classic blizzard behavior. Grandmothers solved this by threading needles with their own hair. Frozen wisdom needs warm delivery systems. Spot that blue vein in the ice. It's not water, it's compacted freezing fog from the stratosphere. Lick it, your tongue sticks, a disciplinary trick for unruly apprentices. Safety third. The northern lights ripple, their green glow turns wool patterns into living charts. Auroras amplify ice's refractive index. Suddenly, your felt strip shows next week's snow accumulation. NASA's working on an app version. Glitches include sunscreen recommendations for blizzards. Build a mini yurt from iced fibers. Its collapse time predicts storm duration. 6 minutes upright equals 6 hours of snow. Teenagers bet dung bricks on these meltdowns, the original fantasy sports. A wolf howls, but its tail is down. Predators flatten fur against approaching megastorms. Cross-check this with your wool's fracture count. If both signal danger, start apologizing to your deity. Twist two icy strands together, they fuse into a brittle cable. Herders rappelled down crevasses with these emergency ropes that dissolved in sunlight. Mortality rates were motivational. Your shadow freezes mid-step, a wool-induced optical illusion. Severe cold bends light through ice-riddled fibers, casting prophetic silhouettes. That distorted shape, tomorrow's you knee-deep in regret and snowdrifts. Sing a descending scale. The ice vibrates sympathetically at certain pitches. Cracked keratin hums B-flat before heavy snow, A-sharp before thaws. Mongolian idol was historically unpredictable. Dig up last winter's felt, its ice scars have mildew now. Rotting patterns reveal past forecasting errors. One chieftain's misread spawned a proverb. Moldy wool lies faster than a starving fox. The campfire hisses, melting ice flees your wool in steam ribbons. Catch the vapor on a copper plate, it'll condense into tomorrow's snowfall amount. Fancy beakers optional, a cooked bowl works. Dawn bleeds across the steppe, your iced wool glows like split sapphires. Each fracture throbs in time with the wind's pulse. Pocket a shard. Its chill will outlast the storm and your poor life choices. Your boots crunch through crusted snow, each step cracking the step's frozen skin. Unspool a crimped wool strand. Its kinks form peaks and valleys, mirroring distant mountains. Mongol herders navigated the Gobi by these fiber topography maps. One wrong twist could lead to quicksand, disguised as solid ground. In 1221, a messenger reportedly rode 700 miles, using only a lamb's fleece chart. His route later became the Silk Road's northern branch. Twirl the strand counterclockwise, its loops tighten into a miniature mountain range. Elders taught that eastward bending curls marked safe passes. Vertical waves signaled avalanche zones. Teenagers tested this by releasing goats with dyed fleece. The survivors' wool became victory maps, sung about at solstice feasts. Smear mutton fat across the fibers. It highlights hidden ridges with greasy clarity. This trick allegedly saved Kublai Khan's armored column. In 1285, their wool maps turned transparent during a sandstorm. Historians still argue whether the fat was lubricant or lunch. Spot those irregular bumps near the strand's end. They match vulture migration paths over the Altai Mountains. Stray sheep carried these aerial maps in their fleece. Nomads followed them to fresh pastures. A 1924 expedition found mummified rams with spiral horns. Each growth ring corresponded to a famine or flood year. Knead the wool against your palm. Heat activates centuries-old lanolin. Suddenly, the fiber's kinks soften into a river delta pattern. Shepherds drank from these water maps during droughts. The tighter the curls, the deeper the underground springs. Warning: swallowing wool earns you 7 years of comic indigestion. Compare 2 strands from rival herds. Their crimp patterns clash like conflicting GPS apps. Clan wars often started over disputed fleece cartography. A 19th century treaty carved border symbols into breeding rams' teeth. The original encrypted maps slash the wool diagonally, lay the pieces in a star shape. Gaps between threads reveal hidden canyons. Children played a game with these star maps. Whoever balanced a pebble on the weakest gap won a pony. Most ponies stayed unclaimed. Bury the strand, dig it up at moonrise. Frost patterns now resemble wolf paw prints. Predators followed the same migratory routes as sheep. Smart herders tracked both fleece and footprints. A Mongolian proverb warns: wool maps show where to go, wolf maps show where to flee. Chew the fiber's tip. Saliva highlights blue dye from long-gone indigo plants. This taste mapping trick revealed ancient trade routes. Scientists recently found 12 spice residues in 800-year-old felt. Cinnamon from Sri Lanka, pepper from India. Regret from merchants who underestimated Gobi winters. Split the strand's core, find a nematode fossilized madrigal. These wool worms once ate migratory path data into fleece. Genghis Khan's scouts allegedly infected enemy flocks with map-erasing parasites, early biological warfare. Pluck 3 fibers, twist into a cord, dangle it over a flame. The way it curls upward predicts altitude sickness risk. Herders ascending the Pamirs wove these height gauges into their beards. Singed facial hair meant turn back. Watch the wool's shadow at noon. Its silhouette matches Stone Age petroglyphs 30 miles east. Archaeologists debate whether ancient herders copied fleece maps onto rocks or vice versa. Either way, you're walking a woolen Wikipedia. Rustle the fiber near your ear. It crackles with static electricity. Elders swore this noise replicated the song of safe paths. Modern hikers amplify it with smartphone speakers, though lithium batteries hate Mongolian folk magic. Braid the strand with horsehair. Suddenly, it points magnetic north. The Iron Cross Brotherhood tattooed these hybrid maps onto their thighs until sweat distorted the coordinates. Find a knotted section. It's no accident. Each tangle marks where 3 migratory bird paths intersect. Eagle hunters buried these sky crossroads under cairns. Pilgrims still add stones today. Half bury the wool in ashes. The exposed curls darken into contour lines. Shamans interpreted these gradient shifts as advice. Move south, marry your cousin, stop eating yellow snow, discover a flattened patch. Some poor sheep slept on its map. These crushed legends became cautionary tales. Don't ignore the signs unless you want the sky to sit on you. The wind shifts. Your wool strand twitches like a living compass. Time to choose. Follow its crimped wisdom toward uncertain shelter, or trust your numb feet. Either way, the next valley's frozen streams already know your decision. Your fingers trace the sagging felt, once taut storm walls now drooping like old skin. Each wrinkle confesses past deceptions. The tight spiral from 1423 that lied about spring rains. The suspiciously smooth patch from a drought year someone tried to rewrite. Families buried these worn textiles like shameful ledgers, digging pits exactly 7 handspans deep to preserve their 3D weather diaries. In 2008, restorers at the National Museum of Mongolia found a 14th century tent liner. Its degraded fibers precisely matched tree ring climate records. They also discovered chewing tobacco stains from 1892. Some truths stay buried. Breathe on the brittle edge. It curls into the shape of a long-dead shepherd's frown. That's the 1684 year of false thaws fossilized in lanolin. Elders taught that aged felt never lies, unlike fresh wool drunk on new weather. Teenagers tested this by burying modern synthetics. The plastic stayed stubbornly blank. Pick at a moth hole. The frayed edges form Cyrillic letters, spelling pe'er yed'ate ye el yeri. STVA. Nobody mentions the 1957 Soviet Mongol climate survey teams. Their plundered felt maps still missing. Rumor says Stalin's meteorologists got frostbite trying to read rebel wool. Peel apart layers glued by centuries of sheep sweat. each stratum a frozen weather report. Here the great frost of 1740 left parallel grooves like prison bars. There, the 1921 revolution's chaotic winds scribbled nonsense prophecies. Historians still argue whether the red dye in this section is ochre or dried blood from map-making disputes. Sniff the blackened corner. It reeks of yak butter and regret. That's the scent signature of the deception winter, when 12 clans starved following corrupt wool charts. Shamans later burned the guilty felt, but somebody salvaged this fragment as a cautionary souvenir. Hold it to the light. See those iridescent streaks. Beetle larvae digested the wool's climate lies into metallic truth. Museum conservators hate these shimmering trails. They're 83% more reflective than the original fibers. Stretch the felt until it screams a high-pitched G-sharp. The same note glaciers make calving. Elders played this truth tone during inheritance ceremonies. Heirs had to match the pitch or forfeit their land. Modern attempts with synthesizers always sound apologetic. Count the repair stitches, 78 woolen sutures marking past climate emergencies. The 5th stitch from the left uses camel hair, a desperate patch during the 1811 sandstorm that erased 3 oases. Touch it, the fibers still feel thirsty. Discover a child's doodle in the nap, crude sheep shaped like clouds. Parents let kids correct aging felt prophecies. Their naive strokes often proved eerily accurate. The practice stopped after a 5-year-old drew a blizzard that outlasted Genghis Khan's siege records. Bury a thumbnail-sized scrap, dig it up at midnight. Moonlight etches new cracks resembling weather maps from 2075. Climate scientists pay good money for these future fragments. Astrophysicists claim it's light lag from dead stars. Compare the felt's underside to its sun-bleached face. They tell conflicting stories about the same summer. One side brags of gentle rains, the other whispers of stolen irrigation. Families solved these disputes with truth yurts, felt-lined tents, where resolutions stuck like burrs. Fold the fabric into a crane. Its beak points to Karakoram's forgotten reservoirs. University hydrologists used this origami trick in 2015, finding underground lakes charted only in wool. Their GPSs threw tantrums. Lick the mildewed edge. It tastes like a lie. That's the bitter layer of 1583, when shamans reversed fleece patterns to hide a coming ice age. Millions froze. The felt still gloats. Rub 2 patches together. Sparks fly in Morse code. One curator insists their spelling repent. Others here replace. The debate gets heated. Someone always mentions the 1994 felt fire. Pinch the felt thickest part. 72 compressed years of mild winters. This comfort caused the laziness plague of 1436. Entire clans forgot storm readiness. Their tents flap in museums now, cautionary flags. Find the hidden pocket stitched with horsehair thread. It holds a sheep's milk tooth. Bite it lightly. If it leaves marks, your weather predictions will be cursed. They said a trader in 1929 sold these as truth teeth. His grave was wool-lined. The wind tugs your sample fibers align like iron filings. Suddenly, you're holding a comet's path from 1281, the same year Kublai Khan's fleet drowned. Sailors could have used this map if only boats understood wool. Squint at a suspiciously uniform patch. Its perfect spirals scream forgery. Someone in 1784 tried laundering bad forecasts through a felt press. Their punishment: weaving socks for the entire khanate. Let the felt slump into its natural drape. It forms a topographic map of regret. Each valley marks a missed storm warning, each ridge an ignored blizzard. The ancestors weren't perfect prophets, just better listeners. Now the fibers crumble their final act, exhaling 5 centuries of trapped weather reports. Today's forecast: acid rain mixed with epigenetic guilt. You wrap the remnants in silk, tomorrow's histories already whispering through the holes. The lab's UV light makes your wool sample glow like a radioactive alpaca. MIT engineers built this scanner in 2019. Its algorithm digested 87 generations of herder wisdom into binary code. Turns out great-great-grandma's thumb measurements beat last year's Doppler radar by 9 percentage points. Feast your eyes on Exhibit A, a zigzag fiber pattern from the Smithsonian's collection. Scientists dunked it in liquid nitrogen and slapped it into a wind tunnel. Those 17th century crimps still predicted nor'easters better than a coup weather. 6 postdocs lost sleep replicating ancestor math, their coffee mugs stacked like surrendered trophies. The eureka moment came at 3 a.m. A PhD candidate noticed wool's humidity reactions matched equations from NASA's 1962 Venus probe. They renamed their lab Huntington Research Center as a joke, the plaques still crooked. Warm the wool under your tongue, traditional method. Then compare its springback speed to a climate model. Modern elasticity graphs look identical to 8th century Felter's songs. Nature Communications published this finding last June, buried in the supplemental data. Statistical significance exceeded P0. 1. When subjects hummed in B minor. This microfiber camera reveals microscopic hooks shaped like crescent moons, each catching whispers of barometric pressure. Tech bros tried 3D printing mimic strands. The knockoffs triggered 7 spontaneous rainstorms in Nevada. Elders laughed through the entire investors' meeting. Somebody's Tesla caught hail damage in the parking lot. Rumor says DARPA tried weaponizing tension. Patterns from Genghis Khan's horse blankets. Their prototype caused a humidity spike that wilted Pentagon topiaries. Hence the no felt sign on classified floors. A Pentagon intern's TikTok about Woolgate got 90,000 views before mysteriously disappearing. Late-night labs smell of burnt lanolin and desperation. That's grad student Jiaying roasting mutton over a spectrometer. Her thesis compares cholesterol levels in prophetic versus mediocre sheep. The control group keeps escaping. Peer through the polarized lens. See how polarized we are. Traditional kinked fibers align with satellite wind maps from the 1980s, but curve rebelliously against newer models. Some claim this proves warming's messing with the data. Others say satellites need wool calibration. A Tokyo startup sells felt-lined phone cases that buzz before thunderstorms. Early adopters report losing 9 out of 10 scramble matches during downpours. The 10th win gets called divine favor. Their CEO cites Mongolian patents from 1324. Lawyers are still untangling that yurt-shaped knot. The stupid simple chapter in the lab manual hits different. Step 3 literally says, lick wool, note taste. Yes, really, 63% of users initially refuse. Their eventual data shows 20% higher accuracy. The Human Ethics Board keeps vetoing this module. Bend the fiber until it hums B-flat. That's the cortisol frequency detected in pre-blizzard sheep. Ultrasound techs borrowed from maternity wards now track wool tremors in live herds. Veterinarians report side effects. The sheep roll their eyes during scans. Ground-penetrating radar found a 13th century wool vault beneath Ulaanbaatar, felt scrolls preserved in permafrost. Carbon dating matched one sample to the siege of Baghdad. Its tight spirals foretold the very sandstorms that toppled Abbasid defenses. British Museum wants to exhibit it. Local shamans are suing via spirit channeling. This hologram map shows a typhoon's birth, neon red, wool strands twisting like furious eels. Korean meteorologists superimposed their data. The overlap made Seoul's weather bots glitch for hours. Now, they're investigating fiber interference as a cybersecurity threat. Your pocket warmer activates, a felt-lined pouch reacting to body heat. Its creator combined discarded sweaters with graphene ink, 78 patents pending. Early tests showed 84-degree precision tracking until his cat peed on the prototype. Climatologists argue over the noble savage fallacy in every wool conference's third panel. Does traditional knowledge beat tech? Or did we just forget how to read rubber trees? And Oxford Don's disputed paper claims Viking beards contained similar climate data. Peer reviews been vicious. Smell this synthesis. Bioengineered lanolin imitating 1402's Little Ice Age musk. Perfumers claim it helps focus. Stock traders bought 300 bottles last quarter. Historians still argue whether Genghis Khan's scouts wore sheep fat cologne. The only surviving flask smells like crushed ambition. Fold the lab's smart felt origami style. Its creases form topography lines matching NOAA's latest hurricane prediction. Volunteers tried using it blindfolded. Their storm sketches eerily matched kids' crayon drawings of ancestral nightmares. The debate rages at weeklies: acrylic versus protein-based fibers for modeling monsoons. Purists spit on polymer blends. Young innovators quote Steve Jobs on fusing calligraphy with tech. Nobody mentions the 1967 wool shortage that stalled Apollo 1's knit helmet liners. Zap the sample with static. It's raised hair's sketch, tomorrow's dew points in the dust. Cleaners erased one such prophecy as tacky lint. Their dryers later short-circuited during a record humidity spike. Under midnight LEDs, the fibers whisper secrets to Bluetooth mics. An AI translated weeks of susurrations. It mostly requests more lanolin and better vacation policies. When researchers played Mongol throat singing, the wool tied itself into Gordian knots. Your watch pings, a weather alert buzzes against sheepskin-lined straps. The app congratulates you for choosing heritage forecasting methods. Outside, clouds spiral like neglected fleece. You count 7 heartbeats before the first drop hits. Rain hammers your jacket with indecision, each drop uncertain whether to freeze or flood. You check the felt compass from section 17. Its fibers kink left, while your weather app swears right. Modern sheep wobble between prophecies like drunken shamans. 2020 UN climate report confirmed what herders whispered. Rising heat bends air currents into hieroglyphs wool can't decrypt. A research yak named Gobi made headlines last winter. His GPS collar malfunctioned, following fleece patterns instead of satellites. He reached a lush valley 3 days before rains arrived. Scientists called it coincidence. His herder sacrificed a smartphone to the sky gods. Tumbleweeds of data clutter your screen. That tight spiral elders once associated with drought. Now it precedes mudslides in Ulaanbaatar suburbs. A shepherd's TikTok video shows lambs nibbling graphene-coated grass. Their wool grows in fractal patterns, matching blockchain error codes. You rub a vintage fiber between thumbprints. It hums the same B-flat as pre-industrial monsoons. Modern strands stay silent until blasted with hair dryers. The Kyrgyzstani Meteorological Society tried blending old and new wool last April. Their hybrid forecast predicted sunshine with a chance of locusts. It rained frogs. Climatologists still argue whether greenhouse gases altered wool's vocabulary, or if we're just terrible translators now. Lab rats exposed to 20th century fleece learned maize roots faster. Contemporary samples made them chew through Wi-Fi routers. Witness Exhibit 34, be a 1990s sweater unraveling in real time. Its threads twitch like seismograph needles during a climate conference. Dr. Alton's team fed it live barometric data. The wool knitted itself into a noose. They won an Ig Nobel Prize. Taste test. This organic merino strand, notes of brine and indecision. Pre-global warming fleece, allegedly tasted of wild onions and certainty. A Portland startup sells nostalgic wool gum. Their microbial terroir reconstruction costs $90 per pack. Chew too long, and you'll hallucinate extinct storms. Your pocket felt quivers, not due to weather, but a rogue 5G tower. Telecom companies keep denying electromagnetic interference. Their lawyers cite a 1978 study where mutton outperformed cell signals in thunderstorms. Farmers now sew Faraday mesh into sheep jackets. A Mongolian folk band's latest hit uses wool twanging as percussion lyrics list every rained-out festival since 1241. Climate models can't replicate the chorus's predictive power, though Shazam identifies it as post-genre existential dread. Dust off your great aunt's felt almanac, its sequins mark forgotten blizzards. Cross-reference with NOAA's hurricane tracker. The sequins align with cyber attack hotspots. Some conspiracy forums claim wool hackers caused Hawaii's false missile alert. The FBI confiscated 17 spinning wheels. Check this live stream from a Boston lab. Robotic arms massage modern wool with lanolin from 1923. The resulting curls predicted Tuesday's tornado in Arkansas instead of Oklahoma. An intern scribbled close enough. On the report, her tenure ended with a haiku resignation letter. Peer through the blue light filter. Notice how fibers fluoresce differently since 2015. Researchers identified a new melanin variant linked to microplastic consumption. Sheep bladders now excrete yogurt cup fragments. Vegan activists protest shearing sheds with hologram sheep. Their pixels fail to predict hail. The Weather Channel's Wool Watchers segment flopped spectacularly. Anchor's allergic reaction during the premiere went viral. They've since rebranded as a survival show. Contestants weave fleece while dodging animatronic sandstorms. Breath test this sensor. It grades your exhalations against stress hormones in sheep before lightning strikes. Yoga instructors market storm-ready diaphragms. Their retreats feature felt-lined panic rooms with artisan flashlights. Elders whisper that confused wool isn't wrong, just speaking a dialect from humanity's future. They cite a 12th century proverb about foxes teaching rabbits calculus during eclipses. The last line scratches at your inner ear, half warning, half lullaby. You pocket a tangled strand, its broken helix sinking with the arrhythmic rain. Cold lanolin squishes between your fingers. You're kneading raw fleece in a stainless steel bowl like it's apocalyptic cookie dough. Modern wool feels lazy compared to museum samples. These strands uncurl slower than a tick-tock apology. Start the stopwatch on your phone. But wait, 5G interferes with fiber rebound rates. Use the Sundial app instead. It runs on pure existential dread, borrowed from Section 12's lullabies. Submerge the fluff in rainwater collected before dawn, ideally stolen from a politician's forgotten campaign rally. Watch how the fibers stretch. Each millimeter equals 3 days of atmospheric angst. Legend claims Genghis Khan's messengers timed wool relaxations to outride storms. Historians still argue whether they used hourglasses or just really patient goats. Notice the second curl from the left. It's twitching Morse, code for pack and umbrella next Tuesday. Your sample smells like regret and sheep sunscreen. A 14th century Persian text recommended greasing fleece with fermented mares, milk for clearer forecasts. Skip that step unless you enjoy explaining sour dairy to roommates. 27 minutes pass. The wool tightens into a shape resembling your first heartbreak. Compare it to the FBI's declassified curl classification chart, leaked during that 2018 blizzard forecasting scandal. Pro tip: if the fibers form a perfect Fibonacci spiral, sell your beachfront property immediately. A rogue strand clings to your forearm. It's mapping tomorrow's humidity onto your goosebumps. You remember Helsinki University's 2021 study proving unwashed Mongol wool responds to barometric shifts 13% faster. Their control group, machine-scoured Australian merino, that predicted every rainstorm as a 50% chance of meh. Laughter erupts from the felt compass in your pocket. It's just mocking your weather app again. Ignore the condensation forming letters on the window. Your name, spelled in ancient Uyghur fog script, means either hail warning or the Wi-Fi password's expired. Check both. Dig out that authentic nomadic paddle from the online marketplace. Its barcode secretly links to Mongolian throat-singing karaoke. Pound the wool like you're tenderizing climate anxiety. Traditional technique required exactly 887 strikes, one for each nerve ending in a sheep's spleen. Modern felting tutorials suggest, until your ex texts back, the felt sheet stiffens. Its tension matches your shoulders during tax season. Hold it up to a naked bulb. Light leaks through in shapes like indecisive storm fronts. Archaeologists found similar patterns in Empress Chabai's burial felt, though she probably didn't use IKEA lamps. Taste the rinse water. If it's bitter, expect droughts. Sweet means flash floods. Medieval Mongols allegedly passed this test down through generations. Children's tongues calibrated against glacier melt. Your sample tastes like indecision and microplastics. 3 crows crash land on the windowsill, their feathers ruffled eastward. Refer back to Section 5's migration maps. Avian turbulence means squat when wolves shouting contradictions. One bird eyes your felt hungrily. Offer it a synthwool polymer from Section 21's extinction experiment. The crow regurgitates a Bitcoin address. Wring out the fleece like it owes you truths. Count the droplets. Each one contains dissolved lies from weatherman smirks. A 1980s Soviet experiment proved vodka enhances wool's predictive clarity, though forecasters kept misplacing the data strips. Check the rebound. 11 minutes means phantom snow. 14. Locusts with commitment issues. The UN's latest wool manual recommends mandatory hugs for indecisive fibers your sample. demands a chatbot therapist. Instead, watch the steam rise in reverse. It's sketching next month's pressure systems in vapor hieroglyphs. Scientists can't agree if this is physics or performance art. But TikTok's #felt fortune cringe hashtag trends every time you blink, not 7 strands, while humming Section 7's forbidden storm melody. The pattern becomes a 3D topographical map of seasonal depression. Urban shamans at Burning Man tried marketing these as climate worry dolls. Their Etsy reviews mention spontaneous hail indoors. Campfire sparks dance with your drying felt. Their shadows predict stock market crashes better than weather. A hedge fund manager once paid 60 grand for a Tyvek prophecy rug. It foretold his divorce during a drizzle. The fiber finally stops vibrating. Its last shiver matches your childhood home's zip code. Store it in a lead-lined box tonight. Moonlight supposedly overwrites wool's memory banks. Tomorrow, repeat the process with store-bought yarn. Watch it fail like an origami umbrella. Truth lingers in the grease beneath your nails. Those rain cloud imprints outlast every forecast app update. Historians still debate whether cell towers scrambled wool's dialect, or if we simply forgot how to knead properly. Felt whispers while drying, soft apocalypse in one ear, discount hurricane in the other. You file both predictions under maybe. The felt finally dries into a topographical map of bad decisions. Its valleys echo that time you trusted a tarot reading Roomba. You trace the tightest curl. It scratches your fingertip raw despite gloves. Elders called this the hunger spiral, a warning so absolute it outranked even the iciest blizzard prophecy. Rain drums Morse code on the roof doesn't match the Fleece's drought prediction. Your weather app flashes conflicting alerts. Tornado emojis versus sunburns wielding machetes. Traditional rules say prioritize will overmeddle. But what if staying destroys grandma's medicines buried in frozen soil? You uncork a mare's milk brandy found in Genghis Khan's alleged vacation yurt. eBay authentication included a free Mongol Tinder bio. Legal records from the Yuan dynasty prove debating wool ethics could exile entire clans, apparently. Arguing about fleece counts as treason faster than bad poetry. 3 scenarios torment your kettle-steamed brain. 1. Heed the curl, evacuate elders through hailstorms. 2. Burn the felt, betray ancestors for shaky Wi-Fi forecasts. 3. Splice fleece with quantum computer threads. Create ethical paradox yarn. The forbidden third option whispers through steam vents. A 1970s Soviet weather modification experiment tried this. Cosmonauts knitted orbital felt that predicted nuclear winters and also caused suspiciously timed popcorn harvests in Kazakhstan. Your neighbor's goat bleats through the wall. It ate a wool sample last Tuesday and now predicts pizza deliveries. This complicates things. Historians still argue whether Mongol climate ethics allowed eating your weather oracle. The Great Legal Code's livestock section mysteriously smells like barbecue sauce. Check the almanac, hidden in Grandma's dialysis machine. Page 83 stains reveal a marginalia war. Someone crossed out migrate and wrote fake news in fermented wolf's blood. A museum in Ulaanbaatar displays a similar text. Its curator swears the ink changes recipes during solar flares. Smear lanolin on a smartphone screen. The Wool Translate app suggests two options. A. Impending famine requires immediate Zerg rush west. B. Consider door-dashing electrolytes. Stay hydrated, king. Choose neither. Tradition demands consulting the eldest's arthritis. Grandpa's knees predict whether better than cartilage should. He points northwest, where his ex-wife's clan settled decades ago. The felt shudders, its fibers knot into a hell no glyph, documented in Section 11's forbidden patterns. Dig up the emergency prophecy toolkit buried with your Bitcoin wallet. Extract a marmot femur dice. Roll it across the felt. If it points to the black market antibiotic stash, stay. If it aligns with canned peaches, debate ends. The bone wobbles vertically. A third option lost when 13th century scribes ran out of ink mid-omen. One crow remains from yesterday's chaos. It coughs up a scrap of the Dead Sea Scrolls subscription service. The fragments Aramaic translates to prophets over prophets with a copyright date of 2026. Your lungs tighten. The exact sensation Mongol teens felt when elders chose fleece over futures. A Siberian museum curator once told you deserters. Tents leaked prophecies through bullet holes. Ghost wool still predicts their descendants' dental records. Snap a photo for Reddit's R-Felt graffiti. Comments accuse you of staging ethical dilemmas for clout. One user insists tight curls actually mean invest in pineapple futures. Their profile pictures a stock chart wearing a fez. Scan the felt's QR code, hand-stitched during a 3 a.m. anxiety spiral. The AR filter imposes herd migration routes over your studio apartment. Red arrows point to a 7-Eleven Slurpee machine. Historical. No. Hydrating. Absolutely. The debate crystallizes like rogue frost on fleece. You can't unknow the pattern once felt, demands bloodline choices. A leaked UN climate report recently cited Mongol ethics as preemptive grief management. Their PDF glitches into a knitting pattern if printed backwards. Grandpa coughs. The phlegm droplet forms the empire's northern border circa 1227. Decision made. You ruette the felt with tears and off-brand soda. Watch tight. Curls loosen into something between a maybe and a prayer. Ancestors hiss through steam vents. Their approval smells suspiciously like microwaved pierogies. Tomorrow's storm brews in the carpet static. You file the prediction under moot point. The Wi-Fi dies. Its last gasp pings a satellite shaped like a sheep's guilt complex. Crumpled lab printouts stick to your boots. Each page details wool proteins from sheep, that stopped bleeding centuries ago. You're inventorying Kulan IV samples, a breed erased when Soviet collectivization bulldozed sacred pastures. Their fleece supposedly hummed during lunar eclipses, a fact UNESCO ignored despite Mongolia's urgent faxes in Comic Sans. The last surviving tuft floats in formaldehyde beside a Petri dish, labeled "Do not lick." Archivists found it wedged in a 1920s vodka crate, alongside love letters to a Parisian hatmaker. Your thermal camera reveals ghostly heat patterns, tiny spirals rearranging like slot machines whenever nearby phones buzz. Tech bros would call this blockchain wool. Your ancestors called it talking to winter. 3 extinct breeds haunt these vials. 1. Ulangal, fibers stiffened before sandstorms, creating wearable barometers. 2. Carbuck, their wool absorbed moonlight to predict late frosts. 3. Chilean bogged, coats changed texture if wolves dreamed nearby. You accidentally trigger a gene sequencer. It auto-completes DNA strands into TikToks of sheep herding Bitcoin miners. A grad student's thesis argues these breeds self-destructed rather than forecast climate collapse. Their mitochondrial DNA includes a genetic kill switch shaped like a storm cloud. Rumors persist that Carbuck wool still grows near silent springs. Collectors swear strands unravel to expose latitude coordinates. Last summer, an auction house intern swallowed a fiber, spent 3 weeks reciting rainfall stats in classical Mongolian. Historians still argue whether nomadic extinction prophecies were warnings or suicide notes written in wool. The lab's AI insists on cross-referencing fleece patterns with 5G interference maps. Results prove inconclusive, though every Ulangal sample aligns perfectly with Alaska's worst quakes. You sketch the overlap zone. It resembles Genghis Khan's doodles from that time. He tried stand-up pottery. Dust motes swirl into breed 4's theoretical coat pattern, a mathematical model haunting our Ziv. Org. Geneticists joke about splicing mammoth DNA into sheep, creating woolly forecasters for the next ice age. PETA's already drafting angry sky yurts. Your gloves snag on Chilean bogged residue, a scent like burnt honey and panic attacks. Carbon dating says 1279 AD, the exact year Kublai Khan banned wool-based comedy. Court records mention a jester executed for knitting hurricane puns into the imperial carpet. Staring too long at spectral analysis charts, you hallucinate breed names in static: TAVAN, TOLGOI, ALAG, TSN, EREN to O. Phone alarms blare, a sandstorm hits in 6 minutes, according to both radar and the coffee grounds clinging to your sleeve. Ethics committees demand you ignore the data. Resurrecting species violates UNESCO's No Jurassic Sheep clause. But that Kulan IV sample winks under UV light. Its isotopes whisper a forgotten proverb. Better a screaming flock than silent skies. Mid-sandblast, You seed a fibroblast culture with mammoth collagen. The incubator dings as gale winds peel roof tiles. If this works, future herders might decode tornadoes from wool softer than regret. If it fails, well, Mongolia's landfills need nicer insulation. The storm passes, leaving static cling that arranges desktop pens into ancient Cyrillic curses. You check cameras, the gene splicers humming Hakuna Matata, while printing what looks like a merino velociraptor hybrid. Footprints in the dust lead outside. They stop at a fence, post where Ulangal wool once fluttered. Now just a single fiber sways. It points northeast toward melting permafrost vaults. Your ancestors' ghosts are terrible at subtlety. Lab rats drag car buck threads into a nest shaped like the Orion constellation. One squeaks an urgent warning. Tornado sirens blare seconds later. Coincidence? The rats now charge consulting fees. At closing time, security footage catches Chilean bogged DNA rearranging into a QR code. It links to a website counting down to an unspecified ecological tipping point. The About Us page just says, "Tell the wolves we tried." You pocket a vial labeled Doom Love. Its contents could rebuild a breed or season your noodles. Outside, the wind imitates lost bleeding, half dirge, half lullaby. Stars flicker in Morse code, too fast to decipher without wool. The northern lights ripple like static wool overhead, their frequencies mismatched with Mongolia's aurora forecast fleece. You rub a Chilean bogged strand between gloved fingers. It thrums against the green streaks instead of sinking. Someone's cosmic radio is tuned to the wrong station. Your breath fogs the lab window, frost sketches Inuit blanket patterns from the 1200s, 5 centuries before weather apps. Thule hunters stitched seal gut parkas that puffed up before blizzards. Historians still argue whether tundra caravans used them as literal storm maps, unrolling sleeves to check for danger accordions. Dig through cryo-archives. Find a moth-eaten mitt labeled narwhal wool, hybrid 73. Notes claim Greenlandic elders knit muskox fur with whale baleen, creating fibers that hummed during polar dawns. The mitten's thumb croaks D-sharp when microwaved, a tone Inuit navigators used to triangulate thin ice. Seal skin behaves backward compared to Mongol wool, its threads fluffing in calm weather, lying flat when gales approach. Trade routes spread these contrasting systems. Taiga herders carried felt swatches to interpret Arctic fur codes. One 1348 ledger lists 2 yak tails for one properly anxious sealskin. A preserved caribou tendon from Victoria Island pulses under blacklight. Its collagen veins mimic satellite wind maps. Geneticists found walrus DNA spliced into Siberian sheep breeds, likely a failed experiment to merge storm languages. The resulting lambs reportedly sneezed haiku forecasts. Your coffee cools too fast, a sure sign of conflicting barometric data. Check the seal gut simulation model. Its pressure readings clash with car-buck lunar algorithms. On-screen, blizzard warnings flash both red and turquoise, the exact shade of 15th century Canadian trading post graffiti. Lab mice drag a narwhal wool scrap into their maze. They're suddenly building perfect igloos from shredded grant proposals. One rodent carves tiny soapstone prophecies. South wind Tuesday. Seal blubber half price. You consider charging Scandinavia for rodent meteorology. Mongol felt stiffens when humidity drops. Inuit gut thread goes translucent. But during the Little Ice Age, both systems blared overlapping alarms. A Vatican manuscript describes missionaries confused by dual fiber predictions. They burned 3 yurts before learning to check local textiles. Play the Storm Chant vinyl from Nunavut's archive. Needle scratches emit ultrasonic seal barks. Your Ulangal samples vibrate in response, their tremor patterns echoing 1947's worst Alaskan whiteout. Texts call this interspecies weather telegraphy. Elders call it basic manners. The climate chamber dings. Tested seal collagen now predicts humidity through rainbow sheens. Mongol wool still uses an earth-toned alert system. Archaeologists found 700-year-old arguing letters, Inuit grandmothers dissing Gobi herders. Drab storm vocabulary. Restock the cultural crosswinds fridge. You grab a kombucha that fizzes like tundra permafrost thawing. The label warns, do not consume during solstices. Too late, your tongue tingles with phantom sled dog commands. Ancestors definitely lied about this being wisdom. A graduate student's hologram project flickers. Inuit gut thread holograms crash when Mongol wool algorithms boot up. Error messages appear in Yupik syllabics, roughly translating to your desert logic freezes here. The IT department suggests sacrificing lichen to the server. Compare 3D scans. Mongol felts layer storm data like tree rings. Inuit seal skins compress forecasts into helical whorls. One rogue theorist claims these are halves of a unified system, split during Attila, the Huns' hailstorm divorce. Peer reviews called it deliciously unhinged. Clock out past midnight. Northern lights now pulse with Chilean Bogd's genetic heartbeat. Security cameras catch freezer shadows, knitting seal wool alliances. The patterns suggest a coming superstorm, or maybe someone's trying to crochet a better Wi-Fi signal. Your truck radio picks up Inuit throat singing, blended with Mongolian long song, a viral collab from Nuke's underground scene. The bass line thumps exactly when your last Ulangal sample predicted rain. Turn up the volume. Let ancestral algorithms battle it through subwoofers. Homeward on icy roads, wipers swipe left in Inuit warning rhythm. Pass a lopsided snowman wearing a delegate badge, its carrot nose stolen by a very official conference, Raven. You nod, diplomacy's been tense since the Great Fiber Summit of 1993. Key in the door, your coat sleeve leaves frost spirals on the knob. They curl counterclockwise. Inuit code for hot cocoa recommended. Mongol dialect would have suggested fermented mare's milk. Compromise with Swiss miss and a shot of regret. News chyrons blame your rodents for betting markets crash. Mouse igloos correctly predicted wheat futures. The glowing narwhal mitten hums smugly in its evidence bag. Pour one out for the 14th century trader who first mixed yak tails and seal guts, modernity's original chaos agent. Set the autoclave for tomorrow's experiment, merging Inuit gut thread with car buck moonlight fleece. Prep the containment chamber last. Hybrid spat ice crystals for 9 hours straight. Hit the lights. Exit, humming both storm songs. Let the fibers argue through the night. You shuffle through snowdrifts toward reconstructed festival lights. The air smells of smoked mutton and existential dread. 3 elders kneel before a felt tapestry stretched between frozen poles, its woolen storm maps glowing like cursed spreadsheets. Someone's toddler trips into the ceremonial arag bucket. The fermented mare's milk starts bubbling ominously. Historical accuracy, hisses a grad student in fox furs, their headlamp beam catching 17 frozen sheep mid-escape from the tapestry's edge. In 1709, the actual Great Frost killed a third of France's vines, but Mongol wool predicted crop failure early enough to save herds. Tonight's reenactment uses replica felts treated with yak urine for period-appropriate stiffness. A grandmother's voice cracks as she chants helix pattern warnings. Her trembling finger skips a crucial knot sequence. The tapestry sags. Its central blizzard prophecy now reads like a grocery list. Every throat tightens. Even the pickled sheep ankles in the stew pot stop jiggling. Historians still argue whether the original 1421 doorstep test involved actual blizzards or just drunk uncles exhaling vodka frost. You're handed a steaming bowl. It's either hot rock soup or liquefied Morse code from 1600s reindeer herders. The entertainment archaeologist beside you claims 12% accuracy in recreating ancestral snowfall yodels. His proof: a marmot that hums Mariah Carey's "All I Want for Christmas Is You" during squalls. Flames hiccup as the lead elder mispronounces Hirschlur, the ancient term for wool's angry curl. Snow begins falling vertically, an immediate breach of the evening's weather contract. Someone mutters about cursed microplastics in the replica felts. The project funder texts in all caps. Their emojis suggest a strong preference for functional storm predictions. A teenager saves the moment. Their smartphone plays a 1929 wax cylinder recording of Altai wind patterns. The tapestry settles, its distorted blizzard now reshaped into a passable drizzle forecast. Nervous applause erupts. 3 herders immediately start arguing whether drizzles count as proper precipitation in traditional ballads. You pocket a discarded felt scrap. Its threads spell you're overdue for a haircut in microscopic Cyrillic. Maybe ancestral wisdom doubles as a salon reminder system. The Arag bucket overflows. Foam traces a perfect isobar pressure map on the snow. 3 PHDS scramble to photograph it before a reindeer licks away next week's weather. Later, stomping frozen toes in a yurt gift shop, you find authentic storm divination socks knitted with Wi-Fi symbols. The clerk swears they boost download speeds during sleet. You decline. The real relic is your cocoa-stained mittens, still humming yesterday's hybrid forecast in Morse code. You fumble with GPS-laced mittens. Their glowing screens claim a 78% storm certainty. Outside the yurt gift shop, snowflakes swarm like static from a broken TV. Your phone dies mid-weather alert. The temperature plummets to match your dwindling faith in lithium-ion profits. 3 herders trot past on motorbikes, their handlebars wrapped in ancient felts that hum louder than the engines. One shouts something about satellite shadows swallowing landmarks. You recall the U.S. military declaring GPS fully operational in 1995, a fact that feels folklore thin as your boots crunch over vanished trail markers. A teen adjusts their augmented reality goggles. Digital arrows point northeast toward a cliff edge. Their grandfather snaps the headset strap, revealing eyes that still read snowdrift contours like Braille. Machines forget, he grumbles, needing a pocket-sized fleece sample. Its tight curls predict wind speeds better than any App Store download. Your breath freezes into a miniature blizzard. Each icy cloud scratches the air like chalk on climate graphs. Someone's smartphone translates sheep bleats into stock market tips. Turns out BA means sell soy futures during hailstorms. The flock itself trudges westward, wool coats bristling with the precise curl radius that once saved Kublai Khan's supply trains. Elders resurrect knot-tying chants drowned out by weather radio static. Teenagers half-heartedly tick-tock the storm, filtered snowflakes masquerading as digital confetti. Historians still argue whether the Great Signal Blackout struck in 2012 or 2010. All debates silenced when the last power bank dies. You stumble into a felt-lined ice cave, its walls woven with storm patterns from Genghis Khan's wedding registry. A herder's wife hands you fermented camel milk that tastes like Wi-Fi withdrawal. Her toddler stacks frozen goat dung into a surprisingly accurate cell tower replica, complete with lichen antennas. Outside, the blizzard weaves itself into a snarled wool mat across the sky, each flake a drifting data point. Motorbikes now anchor tattered felt flags salvaged from museum dumpsters. The phrases low battery and nerve sheep blur into the same survival mantra. Dawn cracks open pale light, reveals GPS routes scribbled in the snow now, reshaped into nomad trail markers. A teenager's frozen tears etch satellite coordinates onto their phone case, useless hieroglyphs melting into dew. Your mittens finally warm up, their synthesized voice croaking tomorrow's forecast through a mouthful of static. You pocket a GPS chip crushed under a sheep's hoof. Its fractured circuit board mirrors the canyon's lightning scars. The herders pack untouched solar chargers, choosing instead to rub wool samples against cheekbones, hardened by 7 centuries of wrong forecasts. As the last satellite winks out, someone's radio picks up Mongolian throat singing that suspiciously remixes SpaceX launch codes. Your cocoa-stained mittens vibrate their frayed threads, now hum the same helix pattern tune as the grandfather's fleece. You realize modern meteorology's just ancestral wisdom with worse branding. The sheep agree, their coats curling into smug spirals that outlast every dying tech whimper on the frozen horizon. You crush the GPS chip under your heel, its final beep swallowed by wool-wrapped tent flaps. An elder unfurls a moth-eaten felt banner looted from a Berlin museum. The Nazis stored it beside dinosaur eggs. A curator spilled this at a tipsy cocktail party. 14th century horse sweat crystallized in fibers tells 2 stories. A summer drought and the winter Black Death blamed on sky vomit. Mainstream textbooks mention the 1350s plague, but Fleece's predicted the pestilence's frost-bitten arrival. Your thumbnail catches a fiber's helical twist, frozen mid-swirl like a screenshot of 1347's atmosphere. A lab intern once told you petting zoo llamas fake coughed for pellets. Here, actual science happens. Researchers scraped Genghis Khan era yurt linings, found volcanic sulfur molecules trapped in wool crimps. That frozen data pinpointed the 1257 Samala's eruption better than ice cores. You need a felt scrap from Kublai Khan's nephew's dowry. Its knots encode humidity levels from a monsoon season that drowned 600 horses. Historians argue, did patterned lice eggs in felts mark weather events? Or were they just bored weaver's art? The debate rages in journal footnotes and Mongolian dive bars. Teenagers now 3D scan burial mounds for textile podcasts, turning wool's nanometer bends into audio files. Played backward, one recording sounds suspiciously like a 15th century herder roasting bad weather predictions. Your thermal camera reveals something weirder. Centuries-old felts still radiate faint heat from long-dead sheep's body warmth. A Canadian museum director once tried smuggling argily wool in his toupee. Customs caught the climate contraband, but missed his real crime against hair fashion. You smirk remembering this, your frozen fingers now tracing heat signatures in Charlemagne-era saddle blankets. The felt's Prussian blue dye contains grounded lapis lazuli, proving Afghan traders lied about monsoon routes for 12 generations. Fiber analysis reveals 9th century Vikings wore Mongol felt underwear into battle, itching through raids, while secretly respecting the craftsmanship. Your thermos leaks cocoa onto a DNA-tested swatch. Suddenly, the wool predicts your body heat fluctuations. Tomorrow's forecast. Existential dread with a 40% chance of imposter syndrome. Archaeologists in pith helmets once labeled all felt ritual objects, missing the handwritten climate memos in Angora, goat hair. You flip open a field guide, its margins worn against whispering near pre-modern textiles. Turns out certain vowel sounds make 8th century yak will discharge static electricity. Outside, a grad student argues with a parking meter. Her grant money ran out before the wool core samples did. You pocket a thrumming fiber sliced from Attila, the Hun's pajamas. Its irregular kinks match tree rings from a rogue comet's flyby. Newtonian physics, groveling before sheep's mundane magic. The elder hands you a felt square glowing under blacklight. Interlocking spirals flash like IKEA assembly instructions for many ice ages. These were warranties, he says. Families buried flawed felts to shame ancestors who misread blizzard patterns. Neo-pagans now stage guilt-free reburial ceremonies. Aboard, you licks your boot, her coat curling into the exact helix that bankrupted a Silicon Valley climate startup. Dust motes swirl through laser beams. Quantum physicists shear light across fibers too fragile to touch. The data's clear. 8th century herders predicted eclipses using wool's tensile strength long before telescopes slurped up grant money. You archive these findings by braiding horsetail hair into USB cables. The curator calls it mixed media, tax evasion. As night falls, the felts begin humming their vibrations, syncing with a Boston Labs neutrino detector. Tomorrow's weather scrolls across the yurt roof in Cyrillic sheep tracks. You finally grasp why museums keep textiles in cold storage. History's best climate models need to chill. The yurt's felt walls exhale centuries of barnyard musk as Cyrillic storm symbols ripple overhead. Outside, a Dutch textile historian trips over a frozen yak patty. His €300 hiking boots proof Europe still misreads terrain. You watch him unroll flax linen diagrams labeled Mongol-style divinations, approved by Vatican, 1712. The inked swirls look perfect until you spot the critical error. Every third twist spirals left instead of right, a rookie mistake that turned drought warnings into crop drowning prophecies. French court weavers once paid Genghis Khan's weight in gold for authentic felting manuals, then added decorative tassels that muted wool's whisper-thin humidity cues. Their Versailles workshop flooded 3 days after announcing fair weather. Historians still argue whether lost translations or cultural arrogance doomed those forecasts. The flooded silk preserves both theories in mothballed archives. You flick a switch, fiber optic cables splice 17th century sheep DNA with modern weather apps. Italian interns swore they'd calibrated the system, but the screen screams sunshine symbols as hail pelts the roof. Their updated algorithm ignored pregnant ewes, hormonal curls, 18th century Scottish weavers made identical blunders before starvations halved clan populations. A Bavarian museum displays an infamous tapestry titled Mongolian Monsoon. Beneath the moth holes, chemical tests reveal Prussian blue overpaints, masking original blood red storm threads. Curators claim aesthetic adjustments. You spot cardinals' fingerprints in the pigment. That same red dye once bankrupted Nuremberg's weaving guilds when misapplied prayers for rain summoned locusts instead. Dutch traders smuggled felt samples in spice barrels, only to misinterpret altitude's effect on wool crimp. Their lowlands reared sheep grew strands as limp as overcooked noodles, useless for predicting North Sea squalls. Archaeologists recently found waterlogged ledgers from the East India Company. Weather symbols crossed out beside scribbled will just use barometers. A Renaissance dyer once boasted of improving Mongol reds with crushed cochineal beetles, not realizing their carapaces dulled wool's electrical conductivity. His villa flooded 6 months later. Contemporary sketches show servants bailing water with now worthless tapestries. You find similar hubris in a Boston lab's failed smart felt. Its graphene-coated fibers sparked during humidity tests. Modern replicas fail spectacularly. A Tokyo art collective wove Bluetooth thread into camel wool, created scarves that texted emoji forecasts. The Kickstarter crashed when scarves mistook sauna visits for heat waves. Your guide mutters something about microwaving sheep cheese, apparently a traditional fix for static cling forecast errors. Beneath Geneva's particle accelerator, physicists bake synthetic wool in antimatter chambers. Results: lab-grown fibers predict sunny skies 100% of the time, even during hurricanes. They filed 7 patents, while Mongol interns facepalm in unison. You pocket a scrap of misfired fusion felt from Madrid's royal archives. Its golden threads symbolize Spanish pride, eclipsing practical meteorology. The accompanying 1588 letter brags about outsmarting heathen knots weeks before the Armada drowned in a perfectly predicted storm Mongols called Great Fish Sneeze. A Bavarian clockmaker's 1893 masterpiece still ticks in Munich's museum. Its felt pendulum, supposedly synced with Asian monsoons. Peer closer, the wools from Pomeranian sheep, bred to match Gothic aesthetics. Curators won't admit it's 3 centuries out of sync. Their weather predictions are as accurate as a magic 8-ball. Your thermal camera reveals the truth. Sweat droplets from long-dead European weavers still cling to botched felts. Each salty bead contains flawed assumptions about winter winds, tiny deluges of hubris preserved in linen. A grad student jokes about brewing forecast failure beer from the residue, until the elder glares their mirth into submission. As drones map the camp in 8K resolution, you notice something textbooks omit. Satellite images show Western reenactors' yurts collapsing in rain, while Mongol tents nearby hunker down unscathed. The difference: authentic felt breathes slightly clockwise, stealing Euro-Universal's trademarked climate data can't fix backwards engineering. You press a fiberglass replica to your cheek. Its artificial fibers sit silent as tax audits. Then the elder's daughter tosses genuine argily wool over your shoulders. Suddenly, your skin tingles with barometric shifts. Tomorrow's forecast: a 70% chance of Western museums returning stolen textiles, and 100% certainty that sheep outsmarted the Industrial Revolution. The GPS-less night wraps around camp like unprocessed fleece, raw, intuitive, itchy, with unwritten rules. European flood sirens wail in the distance, their frequency matching the felt's vibration pattern for apologies accepted. You fall asleep counting mutant emoji clouds, each thunderclap sounding suspiciously like a Viking ghost complaining about damp underwear. Dawn cracks open the horizon like an egg yolk, your cheek still imprinted with felt patterns from restless sleep. A pregnant ewe nudges your boot, her swollen belly brushing wool against your shin. The fibers feel tighter than yesterday, coiled springs ready to snap. Your guide murmurs a warning. Expectant mothers lie with their fleece as she unrolls a birch bark calendar dotted with crescent moons. Modern farmers use hormone tests. Mongol midwives counted lanolin streaks. They noticed mother-to-be sheep grew wool as deceptively calm as bottled storms, tight curls whispering fair, whether while hooves kicked thunderheads into existence. Elders preserved this secret in birthing songs, lyrics about clouds having false pregnancies too. Archaeologists found 12th century tally sticks near Karakoram, notched groupings of 3 curls instead of 5. Mainstream journals call it early meteorology. You see the truth in faded uterine bloodstains on the wood. Each mark represents a storm disguised by maternal biology, a flipbook of hormonal mirages. Here's the twist: progesterone makes wool absorb moonlight differently. Midwives soaked nighttime fleece in fermented mare's milk if bubbles clustered west. Prepare for blizzards. A 1432 herbal text mentions this between chapters on love potions and wolf repellent. Your fingers graze a pregnant ewe's flank. The wool resists bending like overcooked licorice. Compare it to non-pregnant fleece nearby, looser. Honest waves foretell midday rain. Historians still argue whether midwives adjusted forecasts to protect mothers' reputations, or just hated admitting nature outsmarted them. Watch a granny midwife at work. She spins a pregnant tuft counterclockwise until the fibers scream tension, drops it into hot water. If it unfurls fast, the storm's a false alarm. If it stays coiled, both weather and birth will arrive early. Smithsonian tried to replicate this in 1999. Their lab-grown wool dissolved. Teenage herders once bet fermented yak butter on pregnancy wool predictions. The losers had to babysit colts during hailstorms, an ancient version of frat house dares. Check those Colts Manes today. You'll find hair whorls shaped like storm symbol tattoos. A French anthropologist once ignored the pregnancy factor, published a book claiming Mongol wool was random guesswork. His research yurt got struck by lightning twice during clear skies. Coincidence? The rebuilt structure has a lightning rod shaped like a distaff. You attempt a modern spin, slip a Bluetooth sensor into a pregnant, use fleece. The app claims stable atmospheric pressure, while your scalp tingles with ozone's metallic kiss. Delete the app. Pour kumis into the soil, an old trick to appease sky spirits offended by bad data. Notice the midwife's secret weapon. They tracked fetal kicks alongside wool shifts. Twins meant twice the hormonal interference, leading to the first adjusted multipliers in weather math. A 1324 court record lists 13 such cases, each aligning with catastrophic storms later that season. Your thermos of salted tea hums, vibrations syncing with far-off thunder. The guide points to a pregnant ewe scratching her flank against a shrine. See the wool's root kinks. They ignore those during lambing season. Too much body heat warps the truth. European medieval tapestries show sheep grazing under sunny skies, never pregnant. Conservationists found charcoal under the blue dye. Original storm clouds erased by patrons who feared bad omens. Modern X-rays reveal lambs hidden in the margins, tiny wool bundles predicting floods the artists couldn't censor. Try the birth alignment trick yourself. Hold 2 fleece samples north-south. Pregnant wool tilts east, non-pregnant stays true. Drop a smartphone compass app into the mix. It spins like a drunk drone. Your host chuckles. Metal confuses what hormones already muddle. A 1986 Soviet study tried standardizing pregnancy wool metrics. Failed when lab ewes stressed by fluorescent lights produced erratic curls. Researchers blamed capitalist sabotage until a Bariat intern replaced bulbs with candlelight. Data stabilized within hours. You sketch today's observations. Notice the pregnant fleece developed a helical twist overnight. Midwives called this the dragon's tail, a 70% chance of hail when paired with crow's nests facing southeast. The hard candy in your pocket melts despite the chill, another clue your skin already knew. As dusk bleeds into starless black, the pregnant ewe begins labor. Her contractions sync with distant thunder, each push tightening the surviving fleece into prophecy. The midwife hums a lullaby older than Genghis Khan. Beware the wool that lies for love. You finally understand why there's not a science here. It's a family secret. Thunder's echo becomes wolf song. A chorus of rasping howls slices through the sodden dark. Your guide kicks mud over the labor's afterbirth, muttering, wolves gossip faster than crows. The newborn lamb shivers in your arms, its fleece still slick. Across the storm-scrubbed steppe, amber eyes gleam, dozens of them, but none approach the ring of felt tents. Mongol herders have danced this waltz for centuries, predicting droughts through wolf disdain. Hungry packs ignore flocks, bearing tight-coiled fleece, those woolly omen-bearers of lean times. Your nose wrinkles at the irony, world-class predators turning up their noses at dinner. It's like Michelin-starred chefs rejecting burnt toast. Genghis Khan's scribes recorded 9 wolf clans acting as fuzzy meteorologists. Their 1224 legal code fined herders who disrupted dens near prophetic flocks. Mainstream historians dismiss this as superstition until you see tonight's evidence. 3 pregnant ewes stand unharmed, their drought-curled wool glowing faintly under moonlight. The wolves vanished like smoke. Here's the unsettling part. Wolves allegedly urinate clockwise around false drought flocks. A 1930s naturalist documented this. His photos show concentric yellow circles in the snow. Modern zoologists blame territorial marking. Mongol grandmothers grin through gapped teeth. Why waste good pee on liars? Your flashlight catches a splintered wolf tooth by the lambing post, etched with spiral patterns matching the elders' fleece charts. Carbon dated to the Yuan dynasty, it sits in Ulaanbaatar's museum, labeled ritual object. Touch the replica in your pocket. The grooves align perfectly with yesterday's wool samples. Historians still argue whether wolves truly tasted climate through fleece or just smelled malnourished mutton. Try this. Rub fresh lamb's wool on your wrist. Wolves bypassed you at the zoo last summer. Coincidence? The security cameras caught 7 canines veering away from your scent trail. Watch a herder reconstruct last night's drama. Ash dust shows wolf paths coiling inward before retreating. Their final paw prints face northwest, the drought's promised direction. Your GPS confirms whether radar agrees. A high-pressure monster squatting over Lake Baikal. Legends speak of wool truce nights, wolves, and herders sharing arag beneath the stars. The pact. Predators get sickly sheep identified by their fleece. Humans gain early storm warnings. A 17th century Russian trader described such a feast. His diary entry ends mid-sentence, ink blurred by what looks like drool. Your fleece-lined boots crunch through frost each step, releasing a puff of lanolin musk. The guide hisses, "Stop moving." A lone wolf sits silhouetted on a ridge, ears twitching like metronomes. It sneezes twice, a dry, crackling sound. She nods grimly. Double sneezes mean the drought will choke us another month. European zoos tried training wolves with Mongol wool samples. Berlin's pack howled nonstop before 2021's record floods. Problem is they used factory-scoured merino. Without the authentic sweat and lanolin cocktail, the experiment flopped. One zookeeper quit. I'll stick with weather apps. Dawn exposes the truth. Wolves left 0 carcasses, but plenty of clues. Scuff marks show they rolled in discarded fleece, their version of reading the morning news. You find a tuft of gray wolf fur tangled in a thorn bush. Its wave pattern matches the drought prophecy curls. Coincidence? The grandmothers are too busy laughing to answer. 3 vultures spiral overhead, another wolf insult to the parading ewes. Their wool tightens further under the birds' shadows, an aerial confirmation of the prophecy. Your guide spits into the wind when carrion eaters agree. Even mountains pack up and leave. The debate rages on, did wolves evolve fleece sensing skills, or did they steal Mongol techniques? Ancient herders certainly watched their enemies' flocks through wolf behavior. Genghis's scouts noted which clans' sheep went untouched before invasions. Tonight's lesson sticks in your throat like dried cheese. Predators make excellent meteorologists, if you're brave enough to consult them. Your thumb traces the lamb's wool, still humming with the wolves' retreat. A notification buzzes in your pocket. The weather app blinks 97% sunny. You snort, the fleece in your palm tightens like coiled springs. Somewhere between yak butter tea and 5G signals, Mongol teens rewrite forecasting's rules. Meet Bayar, 18, riding a motorcycle with one hand. His other palm cradles raw fleece. He'll FaceTime elders about curl patterns, then cross-check satellite maps. Last spring, he predicted a blizzard 12 minutes before the government alert. His secret: Grandma's fingers, Google Earth, and this. He taps the motorcycle's fuel gauge. Petrol fumes make me focus. Woolen tech hybrids aren't new. Genghis Khan's scouts used smoke signals to relay fleece patterns across 8 time zones. Modern herders just upgraded the toolkit. Your guide demonstrates. She lays a smartphone over felt matting. The screen displays radar imagery, storm fronts pulsing like veins beneath wool's topography. See here. She pinches to zoom. A tight spiral in the yarn mirrors a developing cyclone. Double confirmation, clouds lie. Wool never does. Historians still argue whether Kublai Khan's weather stations mixed shamanic fleece readings with Chinese compasses. Most textbooks omit the wool part. You test the theory. Hold a magnetized needle over drying cashmere. Instead of pointing north, it twitches toward denser curl clusters. A grad student in Ulaanbaatar is writing her thesis on this title: Poles apart when physics fleeces direction. The real magic happens at dawn. Young herders gather, charging power banks from solar panels stitched into felt tent flaps. They stream live fleece analyses, tick-tock tutorials on curl calibration. One teen demonstrates rubbing yak milk into wool before scanning it. Like moisturizing before a selfie, better definition. His video gets 70,000 likes, mostly from Silicon Valley engineers. Quirky tidbit: some herders swear smartphone screens respond to lanolin. They'll drag iPhones through raw fleece, claiming touch sensors detect micro-humidity changes. Apple denies this, but Mongolian tech shops sell wool-compatible screen protectors. You try it, your weather app glitches, showing snowflakes in the Sahara. The shopkeeper shrugs. Your phone's not Mongolian, needs cultural sensitivity training. Nightfall brings the ultimate test, a hybrid forecast ritual. Elders chant over steaming milk, teens log humidity data. Satellite maps project onto stretched felt, dancing with live wool readings. One grandmother adjusts her glasses, tracing a typhoon's path with a knitting needle, traditional plus satellites. She winks, like vodka and energy drinks terrible, but it works. The system's Achilles heel, software updates. Last winter, an iOS upgrade corrected wool scanning algorithms. For 3 days, apps predicted sunshine during a whiteout. Herders reverted to pure fleece forecasts, grudging respect in their muttering. Machines need grandparents, says Bayar, restringing his smartphone with wolf leather cords. Your final challenge, predict tomorrow's weather solo. The fleece feels cautiously wavy, a hesitant sun. Radar shows clear skies. Compromise, sketch a hybrid forecast in your notebook. Partial clouds, high winds, 75% chance of epiphany. You show the elders, they nod approval. One tacks on a postscript in red ink. Beware sneaky rain disguised as humidity. As constellations wheel overhead, you realize the true fusion. It's not wool versus satellites. It's millennia of eyes squinting at skies, now aided by screens glowing like artificial moons. Your pocket buzzes again. The app's 97% accuracy rating blinks, mocking or applauding. You can't tell. The lamb's fleece warms in your grip, whispering, what no algorithm can tonight. You'll dream of wolves reading weather apps. Your palms cradle raw fleece, still warm from the sheep's back. Dawn stains the steppe pink, but your weather app insists on sunny. You grip the crimped fibers tighter. Beneath your nails, lanolin mingles with phone screen sanitizer. Ancient Greece meets modern germophobia. The wool twitches, a sudden coil, like it's laughing at forecasts. Remember Bayar's motorcycle fuel hack. You try it, flick your Zippo near the fleece. The fibers recoil, knotting into a shape resembling a thundercloud. Your weather app blinks. Probability jumps from 13% to 78% precipitation. A passing herder chuckles. Gasoline divination works better with mutton fumes. He revs his dirt bike, leaving a scent trail of 90-octane prophecy. Elders arrive, unfolding a felt mat woven with LTE antennas. They're streaming a UNESCO webinar, their iPad balanced on a 3rd century stone altar. One grandmother adjusts her AR glasses, projecting holographic storm patterns onto the wool. See how the spirals align. She rotates a hologram. Pre-revolution, Russian climate records overlap Mongol felt maps. Nicholas II's meteorologists stole our curl math, but forgot the lanolin variable. Historians still argue whether Marco Polo's fabric that smells of storms referred to Mongol felt. Most translations favor poetic license over meteorology. You sniff your sample. It's earthy, with a top note of pending hail. The debate feels irrelevant when Fleece disagrees with satellites. Your phone dings, National Weather Service, update. You decline muting the USDA's opinions. Quirky tidbit: some herders use wool as cryptocurrency wallets. They encode forecasts into NFC threads, trade predictions for sell minutes. A teen shows you his sleeve, loading Bitcoin via a yak fiber patch. Off-grid blockchain, he boasts. The transaction fails. His e-commerce app suggests upgrading to 5G-enabled mutton. You retreat to a test yurt, walls lined with NASA satellite printouts. A solar-powered humidifier puffs, its steam curling like old fleece. On the floor, Genghis Khan's blue wolf prophecy scrolls beside an Aku weather manual. You cross-reference. 3 rainy seasons match ink smudges from 1225. Coincidence? The scroll's translator coughs. Khan's scribes used fermented mares, milk as correction fluid, hard to carbon date. Lunch breaks the tension, boiled mutton with a side of Wi-Fi hotspots. Elders debate cloud computing, literally. Cirrus formations store data best, argues one, licking grease off his thumb. A teenager counters, cumulonimbus has better bandwidth. You stay neutral, chewing slowly. The meat's fibers align eastward, a sign to avoid tech arguments until sunset. Your fleece samples doing yoga now, stretching into shapes that defy textile physics. Tight spirals for atmospheric pressure, loose waves for humidity. A grandmother nods approval. Good flexion, but check the undercurl. She parts the fibers, revealing micronauts shaped like tiny cyclones. Your phone camera magnifies them, their pixel-perfect matches to Japan's latest tsunami alert. By dusk, you're fluent in crimp. Palm read will like subway maps, each twist a train line to tomorrow. Your weather app surrenders, displaying consulting traditional sources in Cyrillic. You dictate notes, voice memos overlapping with wind chimes made from sheep toe bones. The elder's approval comes via WhatsApp, a thumbs-up emoji wrapped in a knife gif. Nightfall brings validation. The promised rain arrives as sleet. Your fleece predicted it. The satellites caught up 6 hours late. You celebrate with arag, fermented mares, milk that tastes like conspiracy theories. A herder toasts to wool's slow truth and Silicon Valley's fast lies. Stars blink above their light older than any forecasting method. You pocket a final fiber, its curl already hinting at next week's thaw. The meteorologists in Ulaanbaatar will deny it, but your palms know. Ancient, greasy, stubbornly analog. They've become the API between earth and sky. The app buzzes one last time. It's requesting your fleece's contact info. You decline scratching lanolin into the touchscreen. Let them learn the hard way. The sleet taps its approval against the yurt's felt walls, a rhythm older than satellites. You let the last arag sip dissolve on your tongue, its tartness softened by the quiet. Across the steppe, bike engines hush to whispers, as if the land itself holds its breath. Your fleece rests now, curls loosened into sleepy spirals, its prophecy fulfilled. Elders wrap iPads in embroidered cloth, screens dimming like setting suns. The hologram storm fades, leaving only wool's musk and the chill of proved truth. You unclench your palms, lanolin glistening under moonlight. No alerts buzz, no data streams, just wind combing through grass, patient, rearranging tomorrow's secrets. That stubborn fiber in your pocket hums, a thaw song too faint for apps to parse. Stars blink, mirroring the sheep's bone chimes. You imagine their light weaving through Mongol wool, threading centuries into something softer than code. The yurt's warmth cradles you, steeped in diesel and herd sweat, modern doubts dissolving like sugar in milk. A grandmother's voice drifts from the dark, a hummed folk tune about clouds marrying mountains. You match your breath to hers, slow, steady. The fleece's final curl brushes your wrist, a comma, not a full stop. Sleep comes as it always does here, unforecasted, sure as a storm felt in the bones. You drift, fingers grazing the mat's LTE antennas, their signals now just lullabies. Earth and sky murmur ancient agreements, no translation needed. The last thing you taste is lanolin, and the sweet, quiet weight of being right.